Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following episode. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me, fellow film and television connoisseur, Andrew Meadows.
I don't know.
We try.
Yeah, we try.
We try. You know, if we had a little bit more time on our hands, we would watch everything. We'd be totally qualified to weigh in on everything and give our thoughts. But, you know, we watched what we could, right?
We have refined tastes. That's what we are. We also, yeah, right. It's refined. We kind of calibrate things so that we're not, watching maybe some shit that we think that we don't have any interest in the first place. Because, why would you do that to yourself? But yeah, it's that time of year again, which is to say it's the beginning of the year, and now we got to go look back at last year, 2024. We're going to go look at 2024. This is our year in review, covering 2024. And like past years, we are doing this in two parts. Now, unlike past years, we are deliberately doing this in two parts. In past years, we've recorded and then recorded and then recorded, and then lo and behold, we've ended up with the 4+ hour behemoth of an episode, which we've put out in one piece. I will say we've done it before with certain things, double features and stuff. But in years past, I've kind of basically ended up cutting those into a part 1 and part 2 to make them a little bit more palatable, a little bit more digestible for listeners, because it is a thing where you can pretty easily split it up. We usually had a TV and a couple film things on the front end, and then finished with the technical awards in a part 2. And I thought this year we are starting a little bit later than we ideally like to start. So if we were to follow that pattern, we might be here for 4 straight hours, into the wee hours of the night, and maybe that's not conducive for everyone's lifestyle. Speaking for myself, not just for Andrew. You can speak for me as well.
So we are doing this in 2 parts. Now, I will say we are doing at least part 1 tonight. We may very well still record part 2, but at least we're going to do it, as a separate episode, so that I don't have to go and tinker with, I got to cut this and make it seem like this was not, recorded separately and have to do all this sort of business of making it seamless. The way I do it now is just, I can just plug it in. Everything's good to go. I don't. It's less work on my end. It makes things. I think it makes things a little cleaner. I guess for everyone.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea. So this is going to be part 1, which is to say we are going to kind of take a snapshot of 2024, talk about some box office stuff, things that we missed, and kind of set down the rules. I guess we'll probably end up doing that in part 2 as well, just to make that abundantly clear. And then we're gonna get into some miscellaneous awards. We're gonna cover all of our TV stuff on part 1, including our top 5 television shows of 2024. And then we're gonna jump into some of our, I guess I don't know what we call them typically or traditionally in the past, like our more fun film awards. We're talking about best superhero movie or stuff like that. Things like that. Kind of more like along those lines is kind of what we're gonna get into, and then we will, as I said, save the technical awards, kind of the more Oscars-styled awards for our part 2. So you'll have to wait just a little bit longer to hear our top 5 films of 2024, along with the acting awards, best director, all that stuff. That will be coming soon on our next episode, on episode 284. But for now, you've got plenty, I think, hopefully, to listen to on this episode. We've certainly got a lot to talk about. I think we're both excited. We had plans to record this even last week, but Andrew had to bow out due to illness. So we're a little bit later than I think we'd like to be.
Hey.
The good thing about that is it gives us more time to watch things. And maybe you watched another thing, or maybe you were just too busy just feeling like shit and not really having the energy for that sort of business. But either way, I can say for myself, I did try to take advantage of the time and watch some things. There's definitely a lot that I still haven't seen, which I would like to rectify, but that's a conversation we'll get into shortly. So either way, are you ready? Are you ready to
rumble?
To get into 2024? Are you ready to rumble?
Oh, yes. Yes, I am.
Let's get ready to rumble. 2024, a year in review. why don't I just ask you up top, now that you've had kind of the time to, reevaluate what you've watched both on the TV and film side of things, and think about, where things fall into all these categories. How does 2024 stack up for you? Do you feel like it's a pretty good year? How does it compare to years past from your recollection? Do you have any strong feelings on the year?
So 2024 for me, and this is nothing new for at least probably the past. I feel like it's probably at least been like the past 10 years. There's just so much content. There's just so much stuff.
So much stuff, so little time.
Yeah, and I really feel like, I don't know if this is a symptom of me consuming less media because I've got so much stuff going on at home and whatnot, you know what I mean? I have like 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 if we're real lucky, late at night to really watch a movie. And unless I go somewhere and watch a movie, you know what I mean? So it's just like a different kind of environment than it has been in the past. With that being said, it seems like there's incredible things, absolutely show busters, just incredible things, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there's like maybe 4 of them.
Yeah.
And then everything else is kind of like
top heavy, and then everything else
is kind of like it's okay. It's just like noise. I'll watch it. And it's not that I don't want to, talk poorly about the other things that came out that weren't like the 4 most incredible things in like the past 5 years. But yeah, I mean, 2024 displayed some awesome stuff. But like you said, it's like, summarizing what I said, it's like top heavy, you know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So for me, there's movies that I think are, like they're just going to like go down as historical film, television kind of things. You know what I mean? Like, like genre defining films and like genre defining television. And then the things that don't do that, I think are like, there's just such a disparity between those things and everything else.
Right. It's not that they're bad. It's just that they aren't necessarily going to be culture defining or, stand the test of time in the same type of way. I think that's fair to say. Honestly, I think I probably feel the same way generally. So, I mean, of course, again, as I sort of alluded to, as we'll get into,
that's with my limited viewing.
Right. I'm kind of in the same boat in the sense that, like, when I put together all the movies and shows that I watch, and I'm sure I do this every single time we do this for the podcast, I'm like, oh, that's all I watch? Oh, shit. It's like, I feel like I missed so much. And so I do think that obviously necessarily colors my impression of the year of I only have this limited pool of things that I watched, which for the most part is stuff that we covered and did episodes on. And though there are movies and shows that I certainly watched that we didn't have time to cover, but not that much. I think probably for me, at least at this point in time, less than years past, I would say. So I kind of feel like this limited pool is like, again, coloring my impression of the year, and I'm like, I don't know. It feels like, yeah, there's a few in there, like, oh my God, certified bangers, incredible stuff. But not a lot of like amazing stuff. Like, I mean, I'll say right now, and this may change when we record part 2, whenever that ends up being, but like, I didn't even have 10, I didn't have 5 honorable mentions. Like, I couldn't even fill 10. I was like, there's movies I could put in there, but I'm like, I would just be putting in there for the sake of filling it out, not because I think that they're like so amazing and like I'm in love with this movie, and the same thing is true with TV, and I think that's been true in years past, just because I feel like TV's harder because it's just longer. There's more content to consume. It's a lot harder to watch 8 to 10 hours worth of content on a regular basis, to the point where you have 10 really high caliber TV shows that you feel comfortable saying, I adored this show, or at least most of this show, and think it's really, really worthwhile. And, enough that I, even if I couldn't put it in my top 5, I'll put it, as an honorable mention. Like, I always get to 10. Usually I get to like 11 or 12.
Yeah, we really have
out an extra one.
Yeah.
And like this year, like, again, things may change come part 2, depending on when we record. If I can stuff a few more movies in, we'll see. But as of now, like, I can say, like, I don't know. I just don't have 10. I don't have a comfortable 10. I could make it 10, but it would be stretching, It's like
You did watch. You did in fact watch 10 movies.
I watched at least 10 movies. It's true. I could put 10 in there, and I could put 10 good movies in there, but I couldn't put 10 incredible, wholeheartedly would recommend these movies to most everyone sorts of movies. And I'm not saying like that's necessarily the qualification for it. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just maybe it's because I've missed too much, and maybe it's just because there's just not as much. Maybe it's just not as much, and I feel like at least compared to years past, it just hasn't been as stuffed full of like just greatness, like lots of good, lots of really solid, a few amazing, but yeah, I don't know. And I think that's true on the TV side of things as well. Where I think really, really great top tier stuff, but past that has a lot of good, okay, to probably more bad on the TV side, but I think especially on the TV side, like you can kind of filter through that and figure out if it's really going to be for you or not before you or you can just abandon ship. You can give it one episode or two and then you're done. Like this isn't for me, true. And that's fine. Maybe someone else will like it, but I think it's shit and I don't care, or I don't have time, or I'm going to use my time on other things. Film, you put an hour into a movie, it's got to be really, really bad for you to jump ship at that point.
Turn it off.
Because typically you've got an hour or so left. You know what I mean? So, and that does happen. It didn't happen for anything for me this year, but it certainly could happen. But yeah, no, all right. Well, it sounds like we're kind of on the same page then in terms of just where 2024 stands. And I think that, if nothing else, I think what that maybe signposts for probably this episode to some extent, probably part 2 to some extent, is like we are probably going to be hammering on a lot of the same projects. I think we probably have similar feelings on certain projects, and I think that they may be the films or TV shows that dominate the conversation because they are at that level of greatness that other things aspired to be but didn't quite hit, at least in our assessment. So
like they casted like the things that came out this year that were top tier, they really they can really cast a pretty far shadow from years before. You know what I mean? Like they're just special. Sure. And that's cool that stuff came out this year. But
yeah. All right. Well, moving more into some other things in terms of just kind of rounding up the year, the things that happened, biggest things that happened. Of course, I think having a little section here to talk about the box office is certainly noteworthy, because there's movies that did really, really well at the box office that we didn't see. So it's probably a decent time to highlight some of those as well. There's some box office duds as well, which we deliberately avoided, but and some that maybe we did see. Maybe it wasn't in a theater, but we might have seen at some point. So yeah, in terms of just like box office notables, I guess let's just hit the top 10. The top 10 domestic for the year. Starting from number 10, we got Kung Fu Panda 4, a movie that neither of us probably saw, if I had to guess.
No, I don't think I've seen that. I recently did watch some Kung Fu Pandas.
They're good. I mean, at least the first one was good. I think maybe the second one too. I don't know if I watched past that. I definitely didn't watch 4. Let's put it that way.
I don't know if I watched 4 or not. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's probably streaming on something.
Yeah, Paramount.
Right. Yeah, well, you have to have a subscription for that. Number 9, Godzilla times Kong equals The New Empire, which I did see. I don't know if you saw. I think I can probably go ahead and say it's not going to be in my top movies of the year. I don't think that's a spoiler to say. But it was. It was a thing as ridiculous as you would expect and want it to
That's
be,
the one with the baboon monkey or whatever, the baby monkey or something.
Yes, there's a baby Kong which is used as a nunchuck battering ram sort of object by King Kong, which is pretty sick. It's Godzilla. He's got like I think he has the pink tail.
Okay,
when it lights up in this one. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. Oh, they give King Kong like a power glove to fight with, I think.
Oh, wow.
Just absolute insanity. But, made almost $200 million domestically. So, hey, not bad. I think over $500 million worldwide. Solid. Number 8, Twisters. legacy sequel. I think we got a few legacy sequels in the bunch here, but that was one of them. Crossed the $200 million domestic threshold. Not as much success worldwide, but hey, number 7, Dune Part 2. I don't know if we'll talk about it again, but
it did. It's a thing that came out. Yeah,
yeah. I don't know. That came out. I don't know. Guess it made some money or whatever, but I don't know. Unlikely to come up again, I would say. Number 6, Beetlejuice. We're closing in on a $300 million threshold here. That did pretty well. Another legacy sequel, obviously revisiting, character. Made famous by Michael Keaton. Number 5, and I think this maybe shows kids movies, animated movies, really, really dominant this year. Despicable Me 4 at number 5. That was $361 million, just shy of $1 billion worldwide. So played really, really well overseas as well. And then jumping into number 4, Moana 2 made over $400 million domestically, crossed the $1 billion threshold worldwide, which is the 13th animated film. Fun fact, to do that. Oh, I didn't even think to ask you for a dad joke. Oh shit.
Is it too late?
I don't know. Is it too late? I don't know.
Middle of the box office. Why don't you round out the box office and then we'll.
All right. Let's do it. Let's break it up with 20. We'll do box office and then before we move into other things, we'll pull it back in. I think that's a good idea. I'm slacking. I was just so excited. I just wanted to talk about all these 2024 things. I knew how many things we had to talk about. Got too excited. Moana 2, crossed $1 billion. 13th animated film to do so. That's a fun fact. There are going to be many fun facts on this episode, but not one central fun fact in our traditional way. But there will be one central dad joke. Stay tuned or check the timestamps in the episode description if you really, really can't wait. But come back. Listen to the whole thing. What are you doing? Number 3, Wicked. We had Glicked. Was it the new Barbenheimer? No, not quite. But Wicked did really, really well. $472 million domestically. A bit more overseas, so $700 million worldwide total. And that's just part 1. Wicked part 1, of course. Gladiator 2 was at number 13, I should say. It's a rated R movie. Did pretty well.
Gladiator was at number 2?
That was at number 13. I'm jumping backward to do the Glicked connection there, just to kind of put that into shape. The actual number 2. Here's where things jump up in a big sort of way. Deadpool and Wolverine was number 2, $636 million domestically.
Ooh.
$1.3 billion worldwide. Set lots and lots of records. Highest grossing opening weekend ever for an R-rated film. Highest grossing R-rated film of all time. 11th MCU film to gross over $1 billion. First to do so since 2021. Second R-rated film to gross over $1 billion, following the likes of Joker. What if they made a sequel to that? That would go well, I'm sure. So Deadpool and Wolverine did incredibly well. And then number 1, which I didn't see, I think maybe you've seen at this point, Inside Out 2. Out 2. No, I think it is on Disney Plus.
It is.
So I think we can say that.
Yeah. We've been slacking.
Yeah. Inside Out 2, absolutely ridiculous fucking run. And for, I think, both of us sort of under the radar in the sense that we didn't see this in a theater. We still haven't seen it, even though it came out in June of 24. What are we doing? What are we doing with our lives? I mean, you've got a kid,
no excuse. We're on Nemo right now. He watches Nemo.
Right. He's probably borderline too young to really fully appreciate probably either Inside Out just yet. But for me, for you and I, just the idea of, being a parent or just being a young human once upon a time in your life. So, a teenager with all these emotions swirling around, that first Inside Out packed a punch. I reckon that the second one does as well, but I can't personally testify to that. But Inside Out 2 raked in $652 million domestically, and overseas alone over $1 billion. It made $1 billion in its international gross alone, so it's at just about $1.7 billion worldwide, which easily puts it at number 1 for the year for 2024. So an absolute dominant force. Domestically, very close run. Deadpool and Wolverine made a very close run at it, but Inside Out 2 just all around was just incredible box office results. I think the highest animated film of all time, highest grossing animated film of all time, 8th highest grossing film of all time, period. Overtook The Lion King to do the highest grossing animated film.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, just insane numbers on that one. So should watch it. Maybe I'll watch it in time for part 2, although we will be talking about best animated film on this year. So if I need to make a retroactive award, a correction, an adjustment, I will certainly say so. But I also think that it's probably unlikely that I'll watch it before we record part 2. But I do want to watch it. I will say that. Feels like a big blind spot for both of us, really. So definitely on the radar. Now, on the flip side, the box office duds that I mentioned, there were some things that did not do so hot. My producer is in my ear saying they actually did make a sequel to Joker. It's called Joker
Fudafafa.
Fudafafa. Fudafafa. Hiya.
Baguette.
Absolute tanked. An absolute tank. It
really
tanked. Sporting a $200 million budget as a courtroom drama, a musical courtroom drama, it brought in $207.5 million worldwide. So, with Hollywood math, you have to make, probably 1.5 to 2 times your budget to generally break even when you factor in distribution costs and the actual returns you're getting on what you're spending. And it did not do that. I think the reports, put it at, losing several hundreds of millions of dollars.
Jeez.
Maybe not several. $125 to $200 million loss is what it was.
Golly.
That's what it was reported as. So big bomb. And apparently it sucked as well. Who could have seen that one coming? Not me.
Sometimes it comes around, the money yielded is a reflection of the quality. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Right. In terms of other kind of notable bombs, it feels kind of mean, but like Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter did quite poorly. I mean, again, who could have seen this coming? But, I guess it's worth saying. The Crow, the fucking Bill Skarsgård, the Crow remake,
like garbage.
which looked like ass, my dude. Clearly, the audiences felt the same way and decided, I'm good. I'm not going to watch that. So, $24 million worldwide against a $50 million production budget. Probably not Joker fully levels of bombing, but not great either. One might say. Borderlands. Remember they made a fucking Borderlands movie? That was a big bomb. Because it had like a stupidly large budget for like a $120 million budget, which is in a vacuum, obviously a lot of money, but also for like Hollywood movies, not crazy, not, for a sci-fi Guardians of the Galaxy-esque blockbustery sort of thing.
It had purely go to cast. I remember having
it must be like Kate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black.
They all just got paid.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Like everyone's just taken home a quarter of that budget, it would seem. And they spent $10 million on the movie itself, which looked like shit, reviewed like shit, performed like shit. And also, I don't know. I mean, I know Borderlands is a relatively popular video game series, but I just don't know who the fuck thought pumping $100+ million into a Borderlands movie was a good idea, because they probably don't have a job anymore. Big bomb there. Argyle was a bit of a bomb.
That was this year?
Yeah, that was, I believe, January of 2024, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe February. Let me
Paul Phoenix.
February 2nd. Paul Phoenix ass hair for Henry Cavill. That wasn't enough. There was not enough to save it.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, it raked in under $100 million worldwide. Very, very unimpressive against a budget of $200 million, which again, what are you doing? What are you doing? And like, I think that was an Apple one, right? I think it was an Apple one.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, they got the money obviously, but like, I don't know. spend responsibly sometimes, reconsider what you're doing, like, stop and think, and a great cast. Maybe that's kind of the similar principle here. Henry Cavill, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell, Bryan Cranston, Catherine O'Hara, Dua Lipa, John Cena, Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh my gosh, it couldn't fail.
I mean, stacked. Matthew Vaughn, what a great director. It's not like he made a shitty Kingsman sequel. No, he wouldn't have done that.
Wasn't enough.
Big bomb. But I think the king of bombs, the little boy, fat man, is that, the atomic bombs, the atomic bombs of bombs, has to go. Can you guess what it is? I don't think you saw it. I don't think either of us saw it. We did talk about a trailer for it at least once. I'm just curious if you have any inclination.
The biggest bomb of 2024.
I think in terms of just, yes, I think relative, box office compared to budget, like just spectacular failure.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, it's a movie written and directed and funded by Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, yeah. I can't even remember the name of it. I know what you're talking about.
Megalopolis. Big bomb. Atomic bomb. Budget of $120 to $136 million, which again, I believe
funded entirely,
self-financed by Coppola because he's got the money for it. Raked in $14.3 million at the box office.
Oh my
$14 million. That's it. That's all it got. I mean, holy shit.
That's awful.
And the reactions were very polarized of like, this is the worst fucking movie I've ever seen, or like, this is absolutely fascinating. I'm not sure it's good, but I was fascinated by it. And some people I think actually liked it. And I think Coppola was sexually harassing people left and right on the set. Sounds like a disaster all around. Just a huge fucking disaster. I guess probably not super surprising that, like, I don't know, didn't make any money because, like, who is this for other than Francis Ford Coppola? Yeah, incredible stuff. So, incredible big bomb. One would say Megalopolis, which we didn't see. Can't weigh in on it, but all we can do is just say it did not make a lot of money.
Right.
We could speculate. I mean, that's the kind of movie that 6 to 7 years ago, if I was a single man,
I
probably would have watched.
I'll be honest with you, I am curious
because I'm
about
like, what am I going to do with the 2.5 hours of my life? Like, what else am I going to do? I could play Overwatch. I could, like, what am I going to do? I could watch Megalopolis. Like, if it sucks, it sucks. I get to make fun of it on a podcast. No harm, no foul. But these days, you more than me, of course. But like, I don't know, man. I got to use my time effectively. I can't be spending my time on Megalopolis.
I'm definitely right there with you.
So anyway, why don't we take a quick pause? No, not in terms of recording. A quick pause to hear. Maybe a dad joke.
I actually don't have a dad joke, but I do have a story for you.
Okay. It looks like you're reading it off of a card of a totally embarrassing dad joke.
I actually had to write it down. Oh, wait, you can read the back of the card because it's labeled.
Yes.
I was crushed recently by a pile of falling books. But I guess I only have myself to blame.
Oh, boy. I mean, I guess it's technically true. There
we go.
So
we can put that one right there with Joker Fudu Fafa and and Megalopolis.
Yes, great, very good stuff. Okay, back to what we've been talking about. 2024, and thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Anytime.
Momentary diversion. What things did you maybe want to watch before recording that you didn't watch? Things that like feel like, I don't know, man, they were shows or movies that were on your radar. You think probably maybe would have found a home somewhere in part 1 or part 2 of our coverage of 2024. Anything come to mind for that kind of fits the bill?
The one that I kept really wanting to watch was Challengers, I think is the name of it.
Yes. Yep. Challengers. Yep.
I feel like that is probably something I would have enjoyed.
Yeah. Seems likely. I think
I slotted foolishly
having seen Challengers myself.
foolishly I slotted in a movie called Cuckoo instead of Challengers. I'm kind of.
I mean, definitely different vibes. So, depending on your mood, I think that's not completely unfair to do.
Yeah, for some reason, I just find it so much. I find it easier to jump into just a. It must be the genre. I don't know, but here lately, I just feel like I could just jump into a horror movie and it's no problem.
Well, I think they're also, generally speaking, shorter. Probably, I don't know if that's part of the calculus, but it probably helps when everything's generally an hour and a half or at least sub 2 hours. So
yeah, but yeah, that's probably the biggest misstep. I listed quite a few shows.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't catch any.
Again, that's the same. Even bigger thing of where do I find 8 to 10 hours to watch this shit? That's a tall task sometimes.
Yeah. I threw in The Penguin. It's probably the biggest one I haven't seen so far.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure. Yeah.
Followed by Dance of the Dragons.
House of the Dragons.
House of the Dragons.
House of the Dragon.
Yeah,
Dragon.
House of the Dragon.
Just one. Although there are multiple dragons in that show.
Did you watch it?
It's the House of the Dragon. I did watch season 2, yes.
Was it good?
I have thoughts. We'll get into it.
Yeah, so
Sizzle.
I did not watch that. I also didn't watch Baby Reindeer, and that one is especially a big misstep for me.
Okay.
Because Sarah watched by the time I walked back into the bedroom, Sarah was 3 episodes in.
Yeah, okay. Too far in. You couldn't. Yeah, no. You got to watch that one from the beginning.
Yeah.
If you're going to watch it.
Fallout. Okay. Fallout's another one.
Yep.
I hear everybody I talk to says awesome things about Fallout, and I never watched it.
Right. That's a show where it's like, oh, this could be bad, but by all accounts, it seems to be like a really good, adaptation of that world.
And even
I
like
watched
my
the first
sister.
episode of Fallout, and I really liked that first episode, and then it's for me one where I just didn't find the time to watch the rest of it. But it's on my list too of I want to watch the rest of it. I just haven't yet.
It's got your boy in it too. No, it's got
Walton Goggins in it. It's got Goggins in it. He's the ghoul. Yeah.
And the other one that I did not watch is Sugar on Apple TV. Never got a chance to watch that.
Oh, that's the Colin Farrell one, right?
Yeah, that one looked pretty cool.
So really what you're saying is you're just disrespecting Colin Farrell.
Yeah, after his performances of either last year or the year before, I can't remember when he was killing it.
He's just too good in Banshees of Inisherin, so we're like, fuck you, man. I can't watch
this year he did put that thing out
from you.
About his personal life and stuff.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
That's true. He's just a remarkable dude. He's remarkable by every sense of the word. And didn't watch any of his shit this year. So
okay.
Don't feel good about it.
All right.
But yeah. What about you, dude? What'd you miss?
Well, a lot, obviously, as it kind of alluded to, and I think this is the conversation I've sort of danced around a couple times already. On the TV side of things, Fallout, as you mentioned, and somewhat large. No, this was originally tracking like a beginning of the year to the rest of the year. I'm not sure if that's necessarily true. I think as I remembered stuff, I just kind of threw it on this list. Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the Amazon, the Prime Video show with Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, I heard was really good. Seemed like it would be fun. Good cast. Guest stars and stuff, and that didn't happen. Hacks and The Bear, 2 shows that are like always nominated at the Emmys for comedy series.
Yeah, I'm so far back on that.
I think they each had new seasons in 24 that I didn't watch because I haven't watched any of their prior seasons. Batman Caped Crusader, I know you watched at least most of, maybe not all of. I'm not sure where you ended up with that.
Yeah.
I thought it looked really cool, just the style of it and everything, and I just didn't watch any of it. Skeleton Crew is one. Some of the Star Wars stuff, like the Bad Batch, is one I think that finished up in 24. Skeleton Crew, I didn't watch any of those. Like Bad Batch is one where I hadn't watched any of the prior seasons, so it kind of again makes sense from that standpoint. Skeleton Crew totally missed. Would like to go back to potentially. I feel like I've heard good things, not from you and otherwise, but missed the boat on that one. And then I think a lot of stuff on Apple TV Plus is like I hear really good things, and talk about it on our look ahead episode, I'm sure. But like Severance is coming back, but I think for 2024 stuff, particularly Silo, I've heard really good things about. Shrinking which is the Harrison Ford, Jason Segel one, and then Slow Horses has had I don't know 3 or 4 seasons now. It's Gary Oldman's spy show.
I want to eat that shit. Things about. I actually did. I write that down. I wrote it. I wrote it down in my thing that I wanted to watch it, and I think I put it in the wrong thing. I deleted it and I didn't rewrite it. But yes, Slow Horses is definitely something I want to get in on.
Yeah, it just feels very much I think I would really, really dig this. But yeah, it didn't. Another thing, which I guess I should mention, almost less so the TV show as compared to the books, but Three Body Problem was a show that the season came out on Netflix. I never watched it. I know, you and Enrique went on a whole crazy deep dive of the trilogy, Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. Yeah. I feel like it came up for a good half-year span of you guys just reading the books and going through that. And then I think talking about the show, and the general impression I got was the show was fine. It wasn't amazing. The books are better. It's kind of the traditional thing that happens is the book is almost always better. But yeah, those are kind of the big ones I think that I just totally missed. Dune Prophecy I didn't watch, but it kind of, I don't know. Some of the things there are things that I'm I was interested in, and then they came out and just the spark never arrived. Lord of the Rings of Power is another one. Watched the first season, didn't watch the second, but the spark never arrived. Boys season 4, I think got stuck trying to catch up on Gen V and never actually started Gen V. So
I watched all the things that your spark did not spark, and I tell you what, you must have a sixth sense for a fucking spark. Because
okay, all right. Well,
we'll talk about it.
Maybe they'll come up in some capacity later. Yeah. We'll see. So yeah, those big ones on the TV side, always a lot, and there's just never enough time in the world. Right now, at least as of recording part 1, I am super slacking on watching the big Oscars contenders. So The Brutalist, The Substance, Anora. There's a few others kind of in that bunch, stuff that's nominated for Best Picture or picking up a good amount of technical nominations at the upcoming Oscars that I have not watched as of recording right now, that I think would probably make a dent on my top films of the year. It's hard to say, obviously, where they would slot in, having not seen them, of course. But
right.
But I feel like some of those would crack. That would solve the earlier problem of I can't fill out my honorable mentions, and then suddenly I watch 4 or 5 movies not nominated for Best Picture, and suddenly I'm running out of space real quickly. Or maybe not. I think in years past, something like Tar, I heard really good things about, and I did not like it. So, just because it's nominated doesn't mean that I'm going to like it, but sometimes I do. Most of the time I do, I think. Most of the time it's nominated for a reason. And then there's Emilia Perez, which apparently is a big source of controversy right now, but we're not going to get into that.
Yeah, what's that all about?
We're not going to get into that. What we are going to do is almost certainly have an Oscars episode as we have in the past couple of years, in which case, oh boy, we will get into that, and we'll probably have Anna to help us out, would be my guess, because I'm sure she'll have a thing or two to say and want to be involved in the conversation. So I will say that even if those movies don't make it into either part 1 or part 2, I do think I'm going to catch a lot of them, and I do think I'll probably talk about a lot of them whenever we do our Oscars coverage. And the Oscars are still, at least as of recording, a month away, so got a little bit of time. So it's doable. And then, other things miscellaneous things that I'm I really wanted to watch that and didn't, but heard good things about are Love Lies Bleeding, which is the Kristen Stewart one. Juror number 2, the Nicholas Hoult, I think it's a Clint Eastwood directed movie.
Yeah, I started that.
Hitman with Glenn Powell.
I did watch that, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of animated ones. Flow, I've heard good things about. Inside Out 2, as we mentioned. Moana 2 I didn't see, and then Transformers 1 I heard actually pretty good things about.
So did I.
Wasn't super jazzed about, but I heard good things and didn't watch. So I really kind of
slacking this year.
I didn't do well on the animated front for whatever reason, but I did see at least one. We'll talk about it. We'll get there, but I did see at least one. So yeah, that's kind of, a lot. Again, it kind of goes to show I'm what am I doing with my time? Working, sleeping, playing video games, editing podcasts, recording podcasts.
Really, a great number of things.
There's just not enough time for everything, Trying to read, bad at finding the time to read, but I try sometimes. So,
you don't drive, right? You don't drive everywhere, right?
No, I don't drive everywhere. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just there's just not enough time in the world for all these things, and we only wish that there were. But
there would be if we quit working.
Well, yeah, but then we'd have other problems. So, we got bills to pay, and you've got a kid to take care of.
Hey, you got mortgage.
I got a mortgage.
We got mortgages.
I'd like to stay in this house, and I think you'd probably like to stay in yours.
Yeah.
So
the things we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking
the sacrifices we make. If it means that we have to miss a Moana 2 or a Brutalist or a season of The Bear, I guess that's what it has to come down to, right? So,
c'est la vie.
I suppose it's worth the trade-off. C'est la vie. Fudafafa.
Fudafafa. Yes.
All right. So let's set some parameters, and then we are going to fucking get into things, man. We are going to do things a little bit differently in terms of, what qualifies, a little bit differently from years past, I'll say. So, anything that's categorized as a 2024 release on the TV and, for TV shows and films is going to get included into our consideration. It's available to be considered. So what I mean by that is, of course, anything that's released in the calendar year of 2024 obviously counts because that kind of goes without saying. But it also, I think, includes things that we could have watched that I'll say that started in 2024, as in on the TV side, or movies that had limited releases in 2024 that we could have watched before recording. And we're recording in early February, so the examples that I set out are Dune Part 2, came out in March 2024. Even though I said we weren't going to talk about it again, this is the only time we'll talk about it, I would guess, for the rest of our coverage of a year in review. It came out in March 2024. Obviously, it is included. Skeleton Crew, as I mentioned, I missed it. I didn't watch it. However, had I watched it, it would have started in December 2024 and would have finished in January 2025, which is to say all of it was available. You can count it. I know you watched at least some. So if you watched all of it, feel free to include it if it makes sense to include it. Something like The Brutalist came out in limited release in December 2024, had a wide release in January 2025. Although I have not seen it, although you have not seen it, because we don't have 4 hours to go sit in a theater, on a weeknight, it counts. It absolutely counts. You know what I mean? So I say that now. Maybe I watched it as a part 2. I haven't. I'm not. I can tell you right now, I don't have the time for that. I will watch it before the Oscars, but I will not probably be watching that before part 2. Whenever we record, let's put it that way. But either way, point stands, it would count had I seen it, but I haven't, so it doesn't matter. I guess kind of last things to note. These are our opinions on everything, and
makes them right.
Watch everything. So, well, yeah, I'm always right, and Andrew's wrong, of course, unless we agree, in which case we're both very right. Smart.
Yeah.
We're both right, but take it with a grain of salt. Like, obviously this is totally based off of our experiences, our feelings, our reactions, our emotions, and everything that we like to see in movies. These are the things in TV shows that spoke to us, and that may align with obviously how critics or other people or how you as a listener might have felt about these things, and it may very well not. You may dislike a thing that we liked, you may like a thing that we disliked, and that's okay, but bear that in mind. So if you're going to, write nasty comments on YouTube, just keep that in mind. There are opinions, and as right as they are, you should respect them. Don't be mean. Don't be mean. We don't like being.
Do we get people being mean? I never read the comment.
No, we're good. I don't think we attract enough people to piss
shame.
off.
That's what I was going to
say. To be trolls towards us. That's when you've really, really made it, is when you just got trolls being like, actually, you're an idiot, you fucking idiot. Actually, Vin and the Last Dance was the best movie of the year, you fucking idiot. Fucking nerds. We don't really get that sort of thing. But if we did,
wish we did. I wish we did.
Maybe there's a bit of recency bias with some of these things. We tend to do a flood of watching things as much as possible. I think probably for me, again, less so this year, maybe for you as well. So I don't think my top 5 of anything has been radically reshaped by, things that I binged in the past 2 weeks or whatever. But at the same time, that obviously that tends to have a factor.
Yeah.
I try to look fairly on things that came out earlier in 2024, even though it's basically been almost literally a year, and I maybe haven't watched them since then. The question is, do I remember enough? Do I remember the way it made me feel? Is there something about it that has stood out to me for now close to a year that I think it still, merits the same sort of consideration that something that I've just seen has, so, those are the kind of things that we think about when we do this. So without further ado, Fudafafa. We are going to kick things off as we did last year with a couple of fun awards. Before we get into our television picks, we're going to talk about a couple of fun kind of things, and these can be really, you can take this in any direction. It's not pick your favorite TV show of the year, pick your favorite movie of the year. It is, you can have as much fun in this as you want. So we are going to do who won the year and who lost the year. So we'll obviously go one at a time, but I think just to kind of maybe make sure our listeners understand what we're doing here, who won the year. I think last year I might have said writers that went on strike or something like that. I don't know if I actually picked them, but I at least talked about them. I think Taylor Swift was an option because that was, the Eras Tour was doing gangbusters.
Yeah.
So that, she came up. Who lost the year? It was Jonathan Majors. I believe that was a consensus pick for obvious reasons.
Real shit year that guy did.
Had a rough go of it. Arrested, convicted, fired from Marvel and a couple other gigs, real rough time. So, I will say on my end, for both of these, I think it was a little tougher.
It was tough. I really struggled here.
Yeah. I like both of these. I'm like, I really kind of had to stretch to the point where I'm like, should I even put these in here? But I kind of wanted to keep them in here as a, dig deep, get creative. And I think that this is because there's not super obvious candidates here. I feel like we are going to go in totally different directions. And that's why I'm kind of curious and interested to see how we go about this. So let's start with who won the year. Do you want to kick things off? You want me to kick things off? How you go first? I go first.
I struggled with this one a lot. I didn't look up the time.
I struggled with this more than I struggled with who lost the year, I will say. I don't know if that was true for you as well, but
I don't know who the fuck won last year.
Okay. Well, you could say no one won. That's fine.
I don't did the AI writing strike and everything, that was 2 years ago, right?
Yes. Yeah, all the strikes were 23.
23. Okay. With that being said, I really don't think anybody won last year.
Okay. I think that's a fairly valid take. I almost had for me, should I go cynical with this or should I go political with it?
Yeah, there's definitely a political answer, but I'm going to avoid the political answer.
Yes, I think I was I'm going to sidestep that. I don't think we need to do that. The cynical answer for me is I almost think AI sort of won, despite the writer strikes. It feels like, AI is becoming more widely used in film and TV and marketing materials and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like there hasn't been big enough pushback against that. I don't know. I mean, this will probably come up if we do an Oscars episode, but The Brutalist has AI usage in it. And
to what extent? Do we know? Or, we don't need to talk about it now. We can talk about it.
Well, and again, we'll talk about it, but basically, I think there are moments where Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones speak in Polish, and they used AI to make their Polish sound more authentic and natural. Which is kind of funny because it's AI. But, basically, they wanted to make them more authentic, more Polish sounding, which are okay, I guess that's fine. Also, the only people that are going to care are the people that actually understand Polish. Is it worth it? Is it, what are the techniques that they're using to achieve that? Are they questionable? I think that's I think for the most part, the ethical debate about AI is, are you just, stealing other people's shit? Are you pulling a Zuckerberg?
Right.
And fucking torrenting a bunch of books and then throwing it into this shit, and then that is now what your generative
your generative ID or your generative AI in this case is going to be Polish recordings, yeah,
right. In theory, and I don't know the ins and outs of like how they accomplished that. Like, it doesn't seem like this has been such a big controversy that it is now no longer being considered for Oscars. But I do think it's like if Adrian Brody wins Best Actor, are people going to be like, better throw an asterisk on there in the same way that Barry Bonds gets a star next to his name for the home run, home runs, when he's roiding it up, it's like
performance enhancing. Yeah.
Right. Is it like, if it's not 100% his performance, like, should it be fair? But at the same time, maybe the counter argument to that is
he leaning into the tools available to him to make the performance
correct? Yeah. And then, like, how different is it from something like mocap?
Absolutely.
Should Andy Serkis never win an award because, his face is being buried by CGI? He's being buried underneath a CGI creature, which he himself is not animating, of course. I don't know. So those are the conversations, but either way, I didn't mean to totally sidestep.
No, it's a good point. I mean, as connoisseurs of film, these are tools that are available to creators. They're going to be.
And I think the ethical considerations and the moral considerations, like those are questions that need to be asked, and it just kind of feels like I think more and more we are kind of looking at a future where AI is definitely going to be utilized. Yeah. And I think that's kind of a reality. And I feel like 2024 is definitely a decisive step in the direction of it is probably going to be a little bit more normalized going forward. It's here to stay, perhaps.
The biggest thing for me would be, is AI being utilized at the expense of is it a tool being used by the people creating the art? Mm. Or is it a tool being used by the people paying the artists? You know what I'm saying? Or does that make sense? I don't know if what I'm trying to, I don't think I'm equipped to make my argument. Mm-hmm. But like, if you're a creator or like you're a performer, like Adrian Brody, and you know what I mean? You use this tool to elevate your performance. I don't know. It doesn't quite bother me as much. It's a totally different argument when you say we didn't hire any artists. We just typed in the computer that what we wanted and it produced.
Right, we went to ChatGPT and said make like a Civil War, a movie that came out in 2024. A24 did some AI posters for it. It's like they just went in ChatGPT and said make Civil War poster, and
now
yes, those to me are, I agree, fundamentally different uses of AI and should be treated as different uses of AI that should be encouraged, discouraged, depending on what it is. But
and then you can have the conversation with not even movies and television and art. You can have the conversation, in every field. And I hope people are on a we don't need to get in the weeds on this, but I hope that the people and it seems I'm an optimistic person in general. I just hope that the people that are using these tools are I hope that there's enough challenge and there's enough people involved to guide, because they're available to everybody. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I hope there's enough. I hope that there's enough rails on this fucking journey to keep us in line and keep us moving in the right direction, because it can spiral really fucking fast if it's not.
Well, my bold prediction is not happening. We will see. We will see. We will see. To be continued, I guess. We may revisit this conversation.
I saw Larry Ellison he went to an AI thing, and he was the government needs to pour all their information into the AI so we can make better predictions, better things. Yeah, you're not wrong, but is humanity ready to put all the government's information in AI? Is it secure enough? Is it good enough? Is it?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not. It's my gut instinct. But all right, let's table this for now. It wasn't actually my winner. Your answer to who won the year is no one. 2024 was a year of no winners. Just some.
My answer. We're on the same.
Oh, well, no. I'm saying I'm saying that's what I'm summarizing what your answer was, just to pull it back.
No one fucking won last year.
So what I did, and it wasn't AI, even though we just spent however many minutes.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I brought it up. I have no one to blame but myself.
Slippery slope.
I went in the direction that I think we've done, because we did this award, I think, in the first year or two of doing the pod, and then kind of dropped it, probably for the similar reason of, I don't really have a good answer. What do I do? I went in the direction of, who's a performer, who's an actor who had like a good breakout year? Because I think maybe they could say that a person won the year if it really feels like they broke onto the scene in a big sort of way, or had like a really good year. Their agent got them some great roles. I don't know. I thought about Willem Dafoe because I feel like he's continuing to crush it, but I almost feel like you could say that about Willem Dafoe every year. So he's a good pocket answer if you need a pocket answer in years to come. Like Willem Dafoe won the year because fucking Willem Dafoe and he's cool.
Yeah, man. That's true.
Glenn Powell. I think 2024 was the year of Glenn Powell. Sort of bleeding in from 2023. So Anyone But You came out like Christmas of 23. But, that I think had staying power, streaming and everything in 2024. I think that really carried that. And then, of course, you had Twisters, you had Hitman.
Homie's a home name now.
And I think he was just way more in the public eye than ever before in 2024. So Glenn Powell is kind of just who I went with, because I feel like kind of everyone knows who Glenn Powell is now. And I don't know if that was true a year or two ago. I don't know if that was really necessarily true. So, we were throwing him out there for Patrick Bateman, Cast Against Type didn't happen. But I think it's just a matter of time until Marvel or DC swoops him up, or at least he says yes. He's probably been offered something already. I think he's going to continue to do big things. And I'm here right now for the time of Glenn Powell. We said it about Jonathan Majors once upon a time, so knock on wood, of course. But
that's true.
Yeah, I like Glenn Powell. He had a good year, so good for him. I'm going to say that he won the year. I don't know if he won it in rousing fashion. I don't know if it was a blowout or anything like that. But who's who I came up with. I dug deep, and that's what I came up with.
No, it's a solid choice, dude. That's a very solid choice. I didn't think that.
Who lost the year, on the other hand? I guess I'll start here, try to take some pressure off you. I don't know if you had a better answer for this one, or at least if you, again, I had an easier time at approaching this one. I did not go with a person. I went with a corporation of who lost the year. And it's probably a Willem Dafoe kind of answer of like, you could probably throw this company out almost every single year and probably be fine and probably have a pretty good argument, in fact. But I went with Sony Pictures.
Yeah.
Because
they've had a shit year every year.
It really is pretty much every year they put out nothing but shit. Maybe like one good thing in the bunch.
Yeah.
One thing that like does well enough that it's like, all right, it wasn't a total loss. But it was pretty close. These fucking sons of bitches put out 3 Marvel movies that were all apparently, because I didn't see any of them because I avoided them, pieces of shit. You're talking Madam Web, Venom: The Last Dance, and Kraven the Hunter, which all looked like shit. I can certainly speak to that. They all looked like complete.
They certainly did. Yes.
Most of them were bombs. Venom was probably the most successful of the 3, but still the least successful Venom movie of the 3 that have come out. So it just feels like those were the 3 big movies. They had Ghostbusters, which kind of came and went. And I think Sony's like one successful movie. Like sometimes they have like a Spider-Verse or something, but they only put one of those out every 10 years at this rate. The only, or they put out a Spider-Man movie made by Marvel Studios, which does really well because Sony actually creatively had nothing to do with it. I think the one movie that I think that they had a lot of success with was It Ends With Us. The Blake Lively, Colleen Hoover adaptation. And of course, I think to further support my answer of who lost the year, shit has gone sideways with that movie. I don't know if you've been following the saga.
I can't follow it. It's so whiplashy. I'm not good at drama anyways, but this is a whole nother level of like fucking craziness.
Yes. So, there's been a lot of lawsuits flying about between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. So Justin Baldoni starred and directed in this. And I know when it kind of came out, the marketing was kind of weird because Blake Lively was like trying to like, it seemed like Blake Lively was making it feel like a romantic comedy and, very fun and playful. And like everyone that, was like, isn't this about domestic violence?
Totally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like she didn't read the content or she didn't understand the script. One of the two. Or a combination of the both. I don't know.
It was very odd. So the marketing was kind of wonky. But now, Blake Lively has sued Baldoni for sexual harassment and intimidation on set. And he's, filed suit against her and Ryan Reynolds, who she's married to, for extortion. And there's a whole thing of, was there a whole campaign to character assassinate Blake Lively during the lead up of this, because there was this big shit fit between these two of, I don't know if it was creative control, they wanted different things for this movie, different edits and stuff like that. I don't know, there's so much to get into with this, and you're right, it's kind of hard to follow, and it's not over. It's still developing. These suits and stuff were filed by the end of 2024, but they are still going on. There's no resolution to all this, but sexual harassment, defamation, Baldoni's suing the New York Times or something like that, just fucking crazy shit, man. So it's this one win where, I don't know, this movie got decent reviews, was a big, a pretty good box office success, a movie that cost basically, pennies to the dollar for Hollywood budget, aka $25 million, made $351 million, a huge success for Sony. And then now here's where we are, where this is just a total shit show. So that's who I threw out as who lost the year is Sony, because even when they win, they lose.
That's true. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my pick. What'd you come up with for who lost the year, if anything, I guess?
If no one won this year, we all lost. And that's my.
Everyone's a loser.
Everyone's a loser. I think the implications of our loss will be felt in many ways, from the wallet to our art to the people who can produce the art to what we feel comfortable, what's comfortable putting on air. I think the implications will be felt for a very long time. And I try to remain optimistic about these things, but it's just between, I don't know, it's just a lot. And I try not to be doom and gloomy, but
it's hard not to be.
When the current administration just continuously attacks writers and comedians and even just things the people that air it, when the government starts it's one thing when they start talking about persecuting people that perform and write things and say things and stuff, you know what I mean, as an artful escape. When the government starts cracking down on that, it's a real we've seen that before in history, and that's not good. So anyways, I think we all and I hope I'm wrong. You know what I mean? But
remains to be seen, I suppose.
It remains to be seen.
To put an optimistic viewpoint on it.
I've talked a little bit about bumpers. I hope there's enough bumpers on our fucking our cart here to sustain 4 more years of craziness, and I hope it's just not full tilt fucking authoritarian crackdown, because that's going to change the things that we're going to be talking about on the podcast for art medium and the kind of expression that you can go to the movies and see. So we'll see what happens.
We will indeed. Well, on a lighter note, I hope. Do you want to talk about some TV? Some TV from 2024?
I can talk about TV from 2024, yeah.
You ready to shift gears, and talk about something hopefully a little bit better? Well, maybe not so much with this first category, but maybe it will be cathartic at the same time in a way that your answer just now was not. We're going to kick off our television coverage, our year in review of television 2024 with the worst television show, which I've also sort of recrafted this year to be worst or most disappointing television show, because I do think those are distinct categories. However, for me, I didn't really have a great pick for one versus the other, and so I've kind of combined it to kind of leave it up to you, a little bit more free form of how you want to look at it.
So
So I guess you're up on this one. So yeah, what did you have some contenders here? What'd you end up with here?
Yeah, so I think that for my money, I think that they are distinct things, disappointed and worst.
Right. And they will be considered distinct things when we get into film, I will say. And I think the reason they're being separated there is just because there was a bigger pool. And I will say, I didn't have an answer for both, but that doesn't mean you can't have an answer for both. So if you have an answer that fits into worst versus most disappointing, I think that's totally fair game for you to put them separately too. So
and I can kind of lump them into the same thing, I think. But I was by far more. It's not the. My choice is the Acolyte. I think that the Acolyte was. I was very, very hopeful. I did not get what I wanted from it from another Star Wars show, which is even more disappointing. And I think that the pacing, it's hard for me to remember everything that I hated about the show. It had cool choreography. There was one sequence to note that I do remember, and I thought that was very cool. I thought it had cool bits, but it wasn't the sum of its parts, and I think it was poorly acted, especially the green character. I didn't think the green character.
Yeah,
I think the green
was real bad.
Fucking
the kids were also bad.
The kids were
there was
also
definitely
bad.
Some prequel ass wooden acting that was not.
We have kids in the Skeleton Crew, and we have the kids in Acolyte, and there's
worlds apart.
Yeah, there's a way to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the Acolyte just fucking missed it.
It's the pitfall of child acting is they're either really good or they're really bad, and there's very little in between, generally speaking.
Yeah, I just don't know. But I was most disappointed by the Acolyte. I wanted to really like that one.
Okay.
So
I think that's a fair read. I think that makes a lot of sense. Do you have anything else that you thought about for this category before I offer up my answer?
I continue to be disappointed by the Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
It's like
I wondered.
It's like a guilty pleasure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is the worst. There is the worst. Actually, it's so bad I actually fucking forgot about it. Let me tell you something. I forgot about the fucking Dune. The Dune with the sky snake guy from that other shit ass show that
Raised by Wolves.
Fuck, dude. Oh, I don't like that guy. I don't like him at all.
Okay, so here's the question. Well, two questions. Did you watch all of Dune Prophecy?
No, I fucking gave up 5 episodes in.
There's only 6, so that's really impressive.
There's only 6? Oh, shit. I got to finish it.
I guess the second question is
that's how much I didn't care. I didn't even look up the episode cast. I'm done with this. Is the show
bad because of him, or is it is he the only thing in it that's really bad, or is it like everything in it is not good and he just takes it to
I'll be honest with you.
Plummets it to new depths, I guess.
I really just don't like any of it, really.
Okay. All right. That's what I'm curious.
The first couple episodes,
he's ruining this show for me. It's like, or is it
is that as well. You know what I mean?
But it's also both.
It's also both. Yeah.
Okay. That
it's almost like if you eat it's almost like if you eat like chicken, you can eat a chicken dish. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And maybe it's undercooked, but it tastes fucking good. I'm just gonna eat it, and then it fucking makes you sick. Well, this is poorly cooked and it tastes like shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's the best analogy I have for
it's fucking raw.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And there's
and unseasoned.
There's pieces of this show that might be cool, but then the things that it's almost like some of the extended books. They just get really fucking out there, but they're not out there. Some of it makes sense. It's just I don't know. It's diluting the majesty.
Right. It's missing the spark of what makes Dune, at least the first movie, maybe the second movie as well, if we talk about it again at any point, which we may or may not, who's to say. It doesn't have the same spark. And I think that I don't know. To me, like, I didn't think the trailers were looked bad or anything like that, but I just feel like from hearing you talking about it and looking up other comments about it, it kind of just seems like it'll be fucking boring. Like, I don't know if that's a fair read based on...
It's boring and fucking stupid is what
it just seems like it's just going to be 6 hours of slop. Like, I'm like...
That's what it is. It's like, maybe we can try to capitalize
It's not riveting.
on,
it's not compelling. No one, you've got some, douchebag guy who sucks in it. Like, I don't know. But, like, is there any sort of redeeming quality to it other than, like, latching onto the property, onto the IP?
And that's
what
it's exactly what they did.
You have to like it because it's Dune. And even though it's set however many thousands of years beforehand, it still looks like Dune. And so you like it, right? Because it looks like Dune and it's Dune. It's the Bene Gesserit, like, I don't know.
It's like, no, I don't fucking like it. I don't want it.
Is that enough? Is it enough to just wave the IP in your face without doing?
Well, they tried it with Game of Thrones, and it fucking pissed me off then, and it pisses me off now.
Sure.
Just quit it. You know what I'm saying? It really gets me irked up, and I can't. It's almost like I have like selective memory because I completely forgot about the show. So maybe that is the most disappointing show. But at the same time, it's almost like it's the most disappointing and it's the fucking worst. You know what I mean? So I think I'm gonna take out the Acolyte because I remember most of that show.
You've worked yourself up into a frenzy.
Yes, yeah, and it's fucking Dune. Dune's the worst.
Dune prophecy. Okay, all right.
And I was afraid of this too. I was afraid of it, and it came true.
Yeah. It was prophesized.
It was prophesized. Yeah, you did a good job. Your spark led you well, or your lack of spark, anyways.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Did you watch any shit?
I think that Dune Prophecy had a lot of potential, but I guess that's what happens when you base your shit off of source material that was written by Frank Herbert's kid, who apparently sucks at writing shit. So, what I've been told, I didn't get that far, and I probably never will, but it's what I've been told.
And you can try it, dude.
I think I mostly steered clear of shit, I will say. I didn't have the reason I combined it in terms of, proposing is I didn't have a true outright worst TV show because I didn't really watch anything that I just thought, this is bad. Like, I don't even think there was... Okay. I take it back. There are a couple things that I started to watch and are like, nah, you know what I mean? So, like, I can't say that it's the worst thing that I watched, but I did watch the first episode of Halo Season 2, and, that came out in 2024, and it felt like more of the same. And we have talked ad nauseum about the first season of Halo, which was a huge disappointment and also bad. And I, had seen some remarks that like, oh, season 2 is improved. It's definitely better, but nothing said that it was some radical reinvention of the show that has turned it from shit to even good. And so I kind of gave it the first episode. I was like, this feels identical. I'm good. I'm out.
Bailed. First episode.
And bailed. And then they canceled it, like within a month or two after the season came out. So I'm like, why would I ever go back? Why would I do that to myself?
I think I saw something in Google today, my Google feed, that it might be renewed through Netflix.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but either way, I'm still not going to go back. That will Netflix cannot save this one. I would watch a Halo TV series if it was at this point disconnected and just totally unrelated. Like a Halo anime, I think could work. Like the way that Netflix has done their animes. I think a Halo anime could be pretty cool. But yeah, so Halo Season 2, I watched one episode and I was like, nah, I'm good. One that got really, really good critical marks and then seems to be completely reviled by the public is True Detective Night Country, which I think started in January, I want to say, of 24. I think I watched 3 out of 6 episodes and I thought it was fine while being kind of hokey and just kind of like a worse version of True Detective, like trying to emulate the style of a True Detective and not quite pulling it off. So that was another one for me, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to have high expectations for True Detective after season 2 happened. Like, my expectations for True Detective are you will never top season 1 because not only is that really difficult, but you will not even hold a candle to it. And that kind of came true. So it wasn't really like disappointing and it wasn't terrible. I didn't think. What I heard was the resolution of it was unsatisfying. And I'm like, well, it'll be unresolved for me, and maybe that's better. Maybe it's better as an unsolved mystery. The Acolyte's a good shout. I think that was disappointing. It had some really, really weak spots. I think I enjoyed it overall, but it should have been so much better. So I think it's fair to say it's disappointing. But for me, my not worst, because I think there's a lot of good in it, but my most disappointing television show of 2024 was the second season of House of the Dragon. I thought the first half of it was great, and I really, really liked the first season of House of the Dragon, I think far more than you did. Obviously, you weren't a huge fan. I know you didn't have the greatest viewing experience of season 1 as well, and we were obviously both jaded and soured on Game of Thrones after the way Game of Thrones went in the end. And for me, I thought season 1 of House of the Dragon really felt like, oh, I'm kind of back in on this, and I did not expect to be. And season 2 had me kind of still in for the first 4 episodes, and it was a shorter season. It was 8 versus 10, and I don't know what the fuck happened, but they just decided to not make episodes 9 and 10 and decided to basically not restructure any of the rest of the show.
Ooh.
So the pacing is all sorts of fucked up, where Matt Smith is stuck in Harrenhal for the entire season doing fuck all, having like visions and shit. And it kind of just ends like basically with the promise of a big conflict, but no real resolution to anything. So like there's big shit that happens in the first half, and then the second half is a bunch of setup for nothing. And like the biggest gut punch, I think, was that the finale, if you want to even call it that, was like kind of a lame mid-season episode, like a mediocre mid-season episode, and it was presented as the finale and like trying to make you excited. And it's like, I'm actively mad that I now have to wait for any sort of resolution, and I'm not excited for the resolution because you've left such a sour note of like just a big fuck you of we'll figure it out later, and I think that was the thing for me, is like the production values were still there. It's kind of felt like, the writing maybe had taken a step back, of they just didn't know what to do with some of these characters in terms of bringing them forward. Like they don't want to challenge Rhaenyra too much, or, make her look bad, even though, it's a big fucking civil war that's brewing and like shitty things are going to be happening on both sides. It just kind of felt like a little bit aimless and directionless and rudderless by the end, where it's just like, what are we even doing here? Like there's no, Game of Thrones, every season, even the shitty ones, had big climactic payoffs to the conflicts that it had set up. They, in some cases, were shitty, versions of those payoffs, but you did get a payoff, even if it was narratively unsatisfying. Brand the broken, like at least it gave you something, instead of just being like, no worries, don't think about it. We'll give you an answer in 2 years. I don't know. So, House of the Dragon season 2 left a really sour note in my mouth, and that was most upsetting, most disappointing. Disappointing. So there we go. All right, let's now move on to saying nice things about TV shows. Get the bitter, sour taste out of our mouth. Let's talk about things that we liked. So we are going to do top 5 television shows ranked in order shortly. But were there any TV shows that fell just short of making your top 5? You have any honorable mentions?
Yes, I do. I've got a few, as a matter of fact.
A few? All right, we'll talk. Let me hear about them.
All right, so when did Blue Eye Samurai come out?
I believe that was a 23 show.
Okay.
So if you want to invent a category of show that I, probably would have made my list in 2023, but I didn't watch until 2024, I think that's probably a fair thing to say.
Okay, well, that would be Blue Eye Samurai. Blue Eye Samurai is going to be my your name television
category award.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So, because that category did not exist before we just had this conversation, I put it in honorable mentions, which it being in honorable mentions, being that it's another movie, I don't know if that qualifies, whatever, but it is something that I did watch in the year of 2024 going into 2025. And I can say that Netflix's Blue Eye Samurai is certified fresh. Netflix's Blue Eye Samurai is an incredible animated series. I am excited for season 2 whenever it may come around. And it is visceral. It is emotionally impactful. It is badass, and it is incredibly well animated. I will say that I prefer other art styles to this art style.
Okay.
So it's not without my personal critique, but that is very much just like an aesthetic choice. And it's an incredible fucking show. It is so awesome. I can't believe I'm so late to the party on Blue Eye Samurai.
Better to be late to the party than miss the party entirely.
That's it. So I'm very glad I watched it. It was an incredible show. But moving on to more conventional choices, The Boys.
Season 4 of The Boys.
The Boys is a disappointing show for me. This season was a slog. But I had to talk about it because we did watch it. You know what I mean? I guess I could have lopped it up there with Dune and Alkalite, but I don't feel as passionate about...
It's not... Yeah, okay. It's still... perfunctory Boys, not inspiring, but maybe not bad either.
It's almost like it's almost like it's not that it's outright bad. It's because it's not. It's almost like Breaking Bad, as good as it was, had slow seasons that didn't really move.
Yeah, this is not.
This is
top tier Boys, but even the worst of the Boys is still probably better than.
It's entertaining. It's at the very least it's positive noise. You know what I'm saying? It's not negative noise. I would say the next one would be Lord of the Rings.
Rings of Power.
Yep, or Rings of Power. Yep, Rings of Power. Rings of Power did some cool things. I think it was fun. I think it's a guilty pleasure. I think the more the show goes on, the more I feel like it's probably sidestepping a lot of source material, and I don't think all of it's well done. But I do enjoy it, even though it might be, sloppy.
Okay. And again, I think this is something we would have talked about in previous episodes, but I guess for the sake of kind of capturing everything here.
Yeah.
About the same as season 1, better or worse? Like
worse.
For Rings of Power. Okay.
I think it's worse than season 1. I mean, but it's close,
Okay. Not by much, but
not by
it's
much.
Not a big step up or anything.
Yeah, it's almost like I went into it prepared for it to be a little bit less, and it
maybe
just
met your expectations of this is okay.
Exactly. And then probably the last one would be Three Body Problem, and I don't mean to put three body. It's almost like Three Body Problem and Lord of the Rings could be probably interchanged. Three Body Problem is I think Three Body Problem is it was thought provoking enough and well done enough for me to want to explore the source material. Yeah. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
So it's like, wow, I bet this is better when it can be fleshed out properly. You know what I mean? And
I reckon it was.
It was. I don't get me wrong. I don't think the books are like I don't think I'm gonna. Maybe I go back and revisit them just because of because they're thought provoking.
Sure. Yeah.
Not necessarily because I think they're narrative tour de forces. You know what I mean? Because I don't think there are, but the ideas that the book presents and how it presents them, I think it's really interesting.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think Three Body Problem is really cool. And especially as we navigate uncertain, like it just, I think it's topical in its own kind of sci-fi kind of way. At least the series as a whole, right? And I'm excited to see where it goes, and how they try to do that. So, I'm excited for the Three Body Problem, even though I don't think it's necessarily it's not the best thing I've ever seen, but it is thought provoking. You know what I mean? Which is, better than what the Boys could provide. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's my honorable mentions.
Very nice. Well, on my end, I actually am going to, since you offered up Blue Eye Samurai as your name award of 2023 thing that you saw in 2024. I'll say the third season of Party Down fits that criteria for me.
Oh, okay.
That 6 episodes came out February of 2023, and I did not watch it until 2024. After rewatching the first 2 seasons of Party Down, I thought the third season really kind of felt like it matched the same energy and felt like a really good, strong revival. And shows, I think, sometimes really struggle with these later revivals. Like Arrested Development never was able to recapture the magic in the same way as those first 3 seasons. And I thought this one did a really good job of doing it, And so yeah, that was kind of my shout out. I think it's very funny. I think it's classified as a limited series revival, which is to say it's probably done again, at least for a while. I'd be happy to watch more if they make more, but I thought that it was a worthwhile follow-up to those first 2 seasons, which is Party Down's like it's a great sitcom. I think that no one watched because it's on Starz and no one has Starz, and some people might consider Starz to be a fake network. Like, does it even exist? And like, I mean, totally fair to make that argument. But it's a great vehicle for a lot of really great comedic performers in Adam Scott, Ken Marino, Ryan Hansen, Martin Starr. No Lizzie Kaplan this time around. She's busy doing something or another, I think. But yeah, I don't know. Good revival, worthwhile. So Party Down season 3 is worth a look. For anyone that's watched the first 2 seasons of Party Down, it's worth going back for, I think. So so that's my pick. Now my true honorable mentions, which could have up to 5, but I've only got 3. So I'll say Echo was an honorable mention for me.
I forgot about Echo.
Show, I think I liked it more than you did anyway, so it's probably a reason you didn't think about it at all. It was way better than I expected it to be. I mean, it's got some clunkiness. I think the final episode, I think you had issues with, where it gets a little super powered and stuff. It's a little, it's not great. It's not great. But I thought most of the show, for something that it was just like, why is this being made? Who is this for? Like, I don't know, actually was like pretty good, and a good kind of exploration of this character and Echo and Native American culture and stuff. And I thought that, like, I don't know, it felt very different from anything Marvel had done before. A little bit more small scale, intimate, and I think it all kind of worked. You got a cool Daredevil fight scene out of it and stuff too.
Yeah, you did do that, yeah.
Like, I think for what it is, like when you edit it all together, it's probably like 2.5, 3 hours. Like, as a pretty small limited series sort of package, I felt like it was pretty good overall. Not perfect, not amazing, definitely clunky in parts, but like a kind of worthwhile. No one asked for this, but that's okay because it was still pretty solid for what it was. Addition to the MCU, so Echo was an honorable mention for me. Abbott Elementary season 3 is an honorable mention for me as well.
Okay.
Abbott's, I think, certainly one of the best ongoing sitcoms on TV presently. Season 4 is currently airing, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Season 3 was a strike-shortened season that started in February, and I thought this was probably, I'd say probably generally on par with previous seasons, like still like really funny at times. I think, it's the one where Janine's at the district, and I thought that wasn't like that to me didn't work super well, but I think, the regular Abbott shenanigans were still pretty much top notch. And I thought the actual resolution of it, they kind of resolved the will they won't they sort of deal, which pissed me off of how they dealt with it in season 2. And I felt like it actually kind of felt like, all right, let's pick a direction and commit to it. And I appreciated that. And I think that it, even though it was kind of like this, the strike affected it, fewer episodes. I think, like I didn't have as much like seasonal episodes and stuff like that. I still felt like it was a relatively tight season that I think will still work pretty well, as if you watch season 1 and a 2 and a 3, like I don't think it really missed a beat at the same time either, even though it was kind of affected by the strikes. So,
right.
So yeah, but look, there are, I'll say 6 shows that were better, definitely 5, but I think my last honorable mention, I would probably say I enjoyed a little bit more than that particular season of Abbott. And so my final honorable mention is the first proper entry into the DCU, James Gunn's DCU, Creature Commandos. I watched all of Creature Commandos.
I didn't know you watched that. Tell me about it.
So this started, I think, in December, wrapped up in January. I want to think it's 7 episodes, like pretty short, sub half hour, and it's an animated show. It's a kind of classic sort of James Gunn team-up thing with a bunch of misfits, misfit toys, and how do they fit together. It's very much What If Suicide Squad, but monsters. And the tone and feel is very rated R, James Gunn, and I think that's sometimes to its detriment and sometimes to its benefit. I think James Gunn is oftentimes best when he's a little reined in. Like, I think Guardians of the Galaxy is like a really good balance of kind of, it's got some humor in it, some dark humor and some crass humor in it, but it's not outright like sex funny, like dick jokes, sorts of things. Like, and this very much leans more into that direction of, sort of the crass humor that he, started his career on, got away from a little bit, and has kind of dipped in here and there. Like, it's tonally and comedically very similar to the Suicide Squad, like his other DC thing that he had done. Like, I think it's very much in line with that sort of tone and feel. But it's got some heart to it. I think it's a little clunky in the beginning, which is kind of probably how most team-up things are, is it's throwing, 6-7 characters at you right off the bat, and you're like, I don't know who the fuck any of these people are, I don't care about any of them. But basically the structure is each episode, I think maybe... can't remember if the first one really does. The first one's really, I think, a lot of setup for everything, but I think 2 through 7 basically have flashbacks for each character and give you backstories for each character, and everyone's got tragedy in their things, and they're being forced to do this for Amanda Waller and all that. But I think that like the actual backstories are all really, really well done and really interesting and add a lot of heart. And James Gunn, I think, is just a really creative, talented guy. And again, I think he's at his best when he's a little bit more refined, and this to me is very much unrefined James Gunn, so it doesn't always work. It's not always that funny. Like, sometimes the jokes don't totally always land.
Is it joke after joke after joke?
It is and it isn't. I think it is, but there is the balance of pathos and heart and just tragic moments that kind of just like super fucked up things happening to these monsters, to these people and stuff. Right. So on the whole, I mean, I thought it was really, really worthwhile, and I think a show that you can definitely breeze through pretty quickly. Okay, 7 episodes under 30 minutes each. It has a pretty good pace. The voice acting is for the most part, I think, really, really pretty good. He did the thing where he basically cast everyone as if these characters were to appear in live action, that the voice actor could do it. So like David Harbour's playing Frankenstein, like Frankenstein's monster. Yeah. Who's just basically a big stalker in this, which is funny. But yeah, no, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought the animation style was very nice, very clean looking. And it's kind of just like this sort of pseudo entry point for the DCU, kind of a follow up to the Suicide Squad, to Peacemaker. I thought it was pretty good. I think Superman will really be the proper DCU introduction. But I like this, and I think that look, if you like James Gunn's shit, you'll probably like this. If James Gunn shit does nothing for you, I can guarantee this will not convince you. It's probably the fairest way to summarize it. But I had fun with it. I liked it a lot. It had a half decent chance at cracking my top 5, but it didn't. So
it did not.
But I'd probably put it as a loose number 6, to be honest. And look, I had a really, really solid top 5. I didn't really. We'll get into it, but I had a really solid top 5. This just didn't quite have enough oomph behind it to.
Sometimes that happens, dude.
But so you ready? You ready to get into some top 5 television shows?
Yeah, what do we got? Top 5.
Ranked in order. All right, I think I will start here.
You start. You kick it off.
I'll start with my number 5 television show of 2024, Agatha All Along.
Good. Okay.
I had a lot of fun with this show. I thought that, it kind of did a similar thing to WandaVision, which I absolutely adored, of having kind of a different setup and thing happening in each episode, but it wasn't quite the same thing. Obviously, you had the Mayor of Easttown sort of thing in the pilot, and then it kind of, was different things and different challenges along the Witch's Road throughout the rest of the season. But I thought the cast was stellar. Catherine Hahn, Aubrey Plaza, all of the kind of the witches and the coven, I thought were really fantastic. I like Joe Locken. I know you weren't a huge fan of his, but I just thought it was like really, really creative and super, super fun and just kind of, again, to the same point that I made with Echo of like, no one asked for this, who is this for? And it's like, I don't know. Sometimes it's nice, I guess, just to have things like handed to me. You're like, I know you don't really care about this, but just give it a chance. Just give it a chance. And Agatha was a thing where like character was a great villain in WandaVision, but like I don't know, I don't need 9 episodes of Agatha. But that turns out I was very pleasantly taken back by it. Like I really, really just thought it was just very creative and very, very enjoyable. Just the set design, production design generally, I thought was really just well done. And, again, same thing with Echo, like one of the more lower budgeted shows or entries in the MCU period. And just think the lesson that we kind of, took away when we talked about it was like, not everything needs to be a $300 million, CGI,
brawl fest. Yeah. Yeah.
We don't need Secret Invasion, we need just
good storytelling.
Tell us a good story, find a way to tell that story that maybe doesn't have to rely on hundreds of millions of dollars of CGI work. And like, I don't know, you might have something like pretty special on your hands. So, and that's what Agatha all along was. So, and it came out at a good time, Halloween kind of, was spooky season and stuff when they dropped it. I think just the rollout of it, I think was just really well done and well timed and just really kind of hit the mark, hit the spot for me. So number five on my top 5 shows of the year for 2024. What was your number 5?
I'm going to agree with you. Number 5 is Agatha All Along for me.
Look at you! You had a zipper on your mouth and you just zipped it up there.
I zipped it up.
Even though you had things to say.
Yeah, Agatha All Along for me. I think it was, while it was inconsistent in its delivery, in my opinion, I remember thinking it was inconsistent.
Yeah, certain episodes hit more than others. I think that's certainly fair to say.
Yeah, I think it was entertaining, and I appreciated the creative approach to the episodes. When it was doing a really creative thing, I think it was that's when it was doing its best thing. You know what I mean? I reflect on it. The more I reflected on it, the more positive I thought about it. You know what I mean? It's like I almost approached it very, very critically. I even think, though, I think in our normal episode, though, I think I enjoyed it. I just think the inconsistency.
I feel like it was one of those things, like the more we talked about certain things, you're like, yeah, it was good. Pretty good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I slotted it in at number 5. So
yeah, that's a worthy spot. All right, number 4. Are we still trading off at this point now? I forget how we actually do this.
I don't know. You feel passionate about number 4?
Well, I know it's something that you haven't seen. So
okay, yeah, lay it on me.
I know we are going to we will diverge here. At least I'm pretty confident. My number 4 is Baby Reindeer, Netflix show, limited series, which is very, very well done. Very, very good show.
Okay.
As I've said, anytime we've talked about it, it's not a show I would recommend. Offhand, because it's a very thematically heavy show that deals with like stalking, sexual assault, and it's just not a happy show. It's kind of how a person can have self-destructive tendencies and kind of just get themselves further down the rabbit hole of that sort of thing. So it is like a really kind of difficult show to watch, but it is also one of those things where you can't look away. It's that kind of show where you just cannot stop watching it. And even though you're yelling at the screen, telling this man, Jesus fucking Christ, what are you doing? Don't do that. Go, no, stop doing that. Don't fucking text her back, or, don't go there. Like, you can't help but, just keep watching it basically. And really, really great performances. So it's like, Richard Gadd plays the main character. It's basically an autobiographical story. There's a whole thing happening with I don't know what the current status of it is, but basically, you know, it's based off his real life experiences of this woman that stalked him, and the real Martha or whatever like sued, I think, Netflix because they claimed it was based on a true story. I forget exactly what the basis of that or what, you know, if there's any resolution to that or anything like that. But basically, you know, it is this guy's story. He wrote it. He's basically playing himself in this. And because it's this autobiographical thing, you know, he's kind of basically making himself relive personal trauma. And that's a really, I don't know, that's like a really weird sort of thing to do. But he's very good. The Jessica Gunning, who plays the Martha, the stalker character, she's unnerving and really, really great. And yeah, it's just it's sort of the train wreck that you can't look away from, but I think it's thematically very powerful and just a really well put together limited series. So yeah, number 4 for me. What do you got?
My number 4 is going to be Skeleton Crew.
So you have finished it.
I have finished it. Skeleton Crew for me is delightful. I think it's I think it's fun. I think it's lighthearted. I think it's kind of inconsistent with, like, you know, the kind of trajectory that the show is given, that the narrative's given. But I think overall, I think it's really fun. I think it explores the relationship between the kid. It's very much a Goonies kind of situation.
Yeah, Star Wars Goonies.
Yeah. Jude Law is great. I think Jude Law is great. I don't think we get the payoff that his character really deserves. So it's not without criticism, but I think is it something that feels like we are expecting a season 2 to happen and that will continue the story, or does it feel like a one-off deal? Like it could work as a one-off deal? It could work. I think it could work as a one-off deal.
Okay.
I'd be fine if it was just one.
Well, I feel like something like The Acolyte was like clearly expecting a season 2 to happen, and then it's not. So,
yeah, no, I mean, it felt like it had a pretty conclusive. In my opinion, I think it felt conclusive from what I can remember. It's been a couple months, but I remember being okay. This is all I really need. You know what I mean? No big cliffhanger or anything else, but. Yeah, I think it's good lighthearted Star Wars, and I think it's cool to have that in a live action medium, you know. Yeah. So yeah, Skeleton Crew number 4 for me.
Nice. My number 3. This is where things got difficult. I knew what my top 3 shows were going to be. The order was where I struggled. My number 3, I had decided, is X-Men 97.
Oh, what is number 2 and number 1? Oh my god!
I'll find out.
Did I watch number 2 and number 1?
You've watched at least one of them.
Okay.
Maybe not the other one.
All right.
X-Men 97. What a phenomenal show! What a phenomenal season 1. I suspect it is somewhere in your top 3. Possibly higher than number 3 if I had to speculate, but we'll find out obviously before long.
We shall find out.
I just think that, I don't know. I mean, I have obviously a lot of fondness for the original animated series, and this was just really, really upping the game on what that show was. You know, a fun, nostalgic, 90s cartoon, and they made this so emotionally powerful. The animation obviously paid a lot of reverence to the original while still updating it for kind of modern sensibilities. They brought back as many of the voice actors as they could, which was a really, really neat touch, even if, some like Wolverine sounded a little fucking old in it, you know what I mean? Whereas Rogue and Storm kind of sounded pretty much, Storm especially, like unchanged. And so that was really, really cool. But I think just the stories that it told, particularly like the inflection point of the show, not to get too spoilery, but there's a very big inflection point, I think about halfway through, where some major, major shit goes down, and holy fuck. Like, I did not expect a revival of a 90s cartoon to plumb these depths of emotion and just this gut wrenching sort of, way. And like that was so impactful. And I think like that's, to me, like when I think about X-Men 97, I think about those moments. And I also think about just like how vibrant and colorful and varied it is, like, lots of different arcs. And I think that's maybe why I probably pulled it down to number 3, is it has some of the highest marks of any show this in 2024. And I think maybe higher highs than probably my number 2 did. Maybe not number 1. But I think the consistency was kind of where I held it back. I think that it has those high highs. I think it's really, really phenomenal across the board. But stuff like the Goblin Queen stuff was like kind of rushed and a little wonky and a little weird. And, like there's things in it that are like good and comic booky and really fun and like very fast paced, but not as hard hitting. And then there are those parts that are hard hitting and that are so great.
Ruin your fucking
score,
day. Hard hitting.
Ruin your day sorts of shit. Absolutely. Like just pit in your stomach, maybe some tears. Just, and like just the sort of, you wouldn't expect it, and it I mean, narratively it hits you when you least expect it, but and also it's just the type of show where you don't like the original animated show was always very topical and like, like not afraid to shy away from like harder topics, but not like this, you know what I mean? Like not in the same way. Like it was like, we're going to hit on religion. We're going to hit on, these sorts of things, traumatic pasts and stuff like that, but it was always through this kids show lens at the same time. And then this is very much kind of blurring the lines a little bit more on the adult side of things. And I think that it just really, really did all that so well. The music in it was fantastic. That's another thing that stood out for me.
Yeah.
Newton Brothers did the score on it, got it on vinyl. That's one of my tests that I've learned is for it to probably be in my contention of like best music of, film, TV side.
Gonna drop a needle and cook dinner to it.
Do I have a vinyl of it?
Yeah.
Or, is, obviously somewhat subject to whether there is a vinyl available for it, but X-Men 97, I do have one for, and it's really, really good. Really, really fantastic stuff. I think even if you hadn't seen the animated series, I think that 97 would work on its own. And I think it gets you up to speed pretty quickly on things. But I think it's also especially rewarding for those who do have the nostalgia, or someone like me who decided to do the crazy damn thing of rewatching the entirety of the animated series before I jumped into 97. So I was late to the party getting to it because I had spent so long watching the original series, but it was really worth that payoff. So it feels weird to put it at number 3, but I think to me, yeah, I feel really good about my top 5. These are all like, these aren't 5 just to these 5 shows that I put in here are not shows that I'm just like, I have to fill out the top 5 because it's the number I have to hit. These were 5 shows where I'm like, they are in here for a very, very good reason, or in the case of X-Men 97 and my number 2 and number 1, for a lot of good reasons. So number 3, X-Men 97. What do you got? Number 3.
All right. So my number 3, I don't think you watched this show.
We'll find out.
And this is a show that's
Love is Blind.
No, it's not Love is Blind, but it's close. It's very, I don't know. Feels like it's very, out of character for me. I normally don't.
Okay.
Normally don't.
Not what you might usually go for.
No, but Nobody Wants This on Netflix is my number 3.
Okay. Is this the Kristen Bell one?
This is the Kristen Bell one, yeah. It's like the rom-com Kristen Bell. It's got Adam Brody, Kristen Bell, yes. Justine Lupe, and a couple of other people in it.
Okay. So your decision to watch this was probably influenced by your wife.
Yes.
Maybe that wasn't a bad
But
thing.
After episode 1, I was stuck. The premise of it, I don't know if you know about the show or not.
No, I'll let you tell it to me.
Yeah, so
I don't know a ton about it. So.
The premise is you have Kristen Bell, who her and her sister, they do like a sex podcast. You know what I mean? Like they explore relationships and
okay,
that sort of thing. And then there's Adam Brody, who is a rabbi. and they kind of meet at a dinner party or whatever. And Kristen Bell has a bad history of bad boyfriends and this and that. And then Adam Brody actually was engaged, and it fell through, right? And this is established in episode 1. But then Kristen Bell, Adam Brody's like I said, he's a rabbi, and obviously his career is to be a head rabbi, to be in charge of a synagogue and that sort of thing. And Kristen Bell is very much not. She's an atheist, I think, is the way it's presented. And it kind of explores a lot of those deeply personal things. You know what I mean? What it is to be religious, what it's not to be religious, what it is to be religious in a very secular world, and how to tote the line and stuff. And it felt, for me, just felt very real. It's very well written. Okay. It's very funny, and it's awesome rom-com. But there's a lot of layers to the show, and I can't recommend it enough. I think it's definitely worth exploring. It's good. It's very breezy. The characters are bright and vibrant and real and lived in, and I very, 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 very much enjoyed the show. So number 3 for me is Nobody Wants This.
Very good. Nice. I've heard good things about it, but it wasn't really on my radar at all. So
no, I mean, I think it's only a few episodes. Let's see.
I think it's 10, but I think they're shorter.
They're 10. I think right.
Yeah.
10.
So it's you can probably fly through those pretty quickly if you'd want to.
Yeah, I think we would watch 3 episodes a night or whatever. So it's pretty quick. A lot of fun. And it's thought invoking too. It's a thought invoking show.
Nice.
So.
Yeah. No, it sounds like it. All right. Well, we're down to 2.
Down to 2. What is? I'm curious what your number 2 is, because I think I know what your number 1 is. But what's your number 2?
I think you probably know what my number 1 is. Do you have any guesses on number 2?
I actually don't. I don't know unless you watch.
Wild card. Wild card.
Unless you watch, which it would be a Your Name kind of situation, as if you watch Ted Lasso. But I don't think you watched Ted Lasso.
It's not Ted Lasso. It would not qualify under our criteria. That would have been an honorable mention that I would have thrown out had that happened. I have not watched any of Ted Lasso yet, but I did recently watch something that I really, really wanted to watch that came out in 2024, and God damn it, it's as good as they say it is. But it's not quite as good as what my number 1 is, which maybe your number 1 as well. We'll see. I watched The Penguin, and it is my number 2.
You watched all the fucking Penguin? You son of a bitch. I
watched all of it. I haven't been watching any movies, but I fucking watched 8 episodes of some crime drama shit.
Oh, and it's good?
It's good.
Oh,
it's good.
Oh, man.
It's real good. I had to really, really soul search of whether it could jump X-Men 97, because as I'm sure you will be talking about, it's a damn good show, and that's a
I just got goosebumps. You're telling me that? Oh my gosh!
And I think that, I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably a little bit apples and oranges. They're both superhero shows, but live action versus animated,
very much apples. And oranges. It's like a true detective almost.
Yes, and I've seen it compared to Sopranos and and stuff of that ilk, where it is very much crime drama, mob family versus mob family sort of thing, and that sort of deal. It's tough because X-Men 97 had so much good in it, but I think that the thing that I ended up putting the Penguin over it for was the consistency. Penguin is just 8 consistent episodes of really, really good, compelling, but also really twisty, turny drama. Every episode felt like a lot of shit happened, and there was never an episode where it felt like it slowed down to catch its breath. It was go, 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 go every episode. In spite of it being 8-hour-long episodes, it was fucking nonstop. And really intense and really good. And I mean, the anchors of the show are, of course, Colin Farrell, who continues to be unrecognizable in this role, but clearly relishing and having the time of his life as Oz. Who he's so good. I mean, he's incredible. He did win an Emmy for Best Actor in a Limited Series, which is totally worth, totally justified. he's so transformed in this role, and the characterization, particularly of Oz, you get so much more of a window into this character than you did in the Batman. But it's really, really compelling to see who he is, what makes him tick, and Anna has described him as a cockroach, and I think that's a very apt description. He's a cockroach of a man who, is made of Teflon. Let's put it that way. And it's just really, really interesting to see him navigate these things, that happen in this show, and the way he worms his way out of things. It's just really, really fun to watch. Absolute spectacle, and Colin Farrell is just so good. Hey, you're doing this the whole time, sort of thing. And it's just a joy, absolute joy. Every bit his equal, sometimes his superior. Kristen Milioti plays Sophia Falcone, who's kind of like his main rival, I guess, or partner / rival. Oh man, she's incredible. She is so fucking good. Her character is like the hangman. She's a serial killer that's been locked up in Arkham and then gets released, and is basically, making her presence known within the Falcone family, because there's this sort of power vacuum a little bit because Carmine died during the events of the Batman. And so she's a force to be reckoned with. She's so fantastic. You would probably maybe recognize her. She was the female lead in Palm Springs. If you go back a few years to that movie with Andy Samberg,
the time loop,
the Groundhog Day one, the time loop, yeah. So she's playing like kind of like a crazed, a little bit, daughter of a mob boss here, and so I don't know, man, she's so phenomenal. Like, you think that she's not physically transformed in the same way that a Colin Farrell is, but she is fucking going for it in the same levels that he is, and it's really, really awesome to see. And again, I think narratively, you wouldn't think that the show could have so much to do. It's kind of just like, all right, you're kind of filling the gaps between Batman and Batman Part 2, but it offers a lot, a lot of insight into the kind of political complexities of drug dealing in Gotham, and also like kind of that, the consequences of what the Riddler did, in the Batman, and bombing and flooding parts of the city, and like how that has devastated Gotham, and these impoverished regions, and how that like has an impact on how these big crime bosses are basically able to operate. It's really, really fascinating. It's really, really well written. The dialogue's pretty sharp. There's a couple cornball moments here and there, but like on the whole, it's very, very consistent, and very, very consistently not only entertaining and compelling, but like pretty rich, pretty deep, and again, not, I don't know, like, like I think there's always like potential for like a good crime drama show to be made out of something like the character like a Penguin, but the way they did it here, it is pretty close to the heights of the Batman movie.
Wow, it's incredible.
Like it feels very much in the same world. It feels like a really strong continuation. It doesn't to maybe draw on a thing. It doesn't feel like a Dune prophecy to Dune, where it's riding off the coattails, but it doesn't know what the fuck it's doing. It doesn't know how to do anything. It's just like, it's Dune, so you like it. Like, this visually is very reminiscent of the Batman. It's very much emulating that style and trying to present it as part of the same world, because it is, but it's doing it really, really well. And it's telling a story that by the end, with, not to get into spoilers, but like by the end of it, sets the stage for the Batman Part 2. And what I'll say, and this is, I guess, a very, very mild spoiler, but I think Colin Farrell has basically, said as much, that he's going to be in the Batman Part 2.
Okay.
And I will say this show, because of watching, 8 hours of this show, I cannot wait to see Batman beat the absolute shit out of the Penguin. I cannot wait.
So he's truly despicable and everything else too.
Yeah, it's a show that, makes you form strong opinions on characters. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Strong opinions. So,
that's good.
Definitely recommend you watch it. It's absolutely worth a watch. The good news is it's good and bad news. The good news is you have a lot of time to watch this before the Batman Part 2, so you don't need to rush into it. You can watch it whenever you feel like you want to have the time and the energy and the space to do it. The bad news is the Batman Part 2 still doesn't come out for another 2+ years. So, that's
maybe not hop on it too quick. Maybe just use it as a precursor for the next one. For the next.
Yeah, but you can watch it in 2026, and then the Batman Part 2 is theoretically only a year away. That doesn't feel so bad, So
all right.
So anyway, the Penguin. I kind of had to put some movies, to the side so I could fit the Penguin in. I actually finished it yesterday. We watched 2 episodes of it yesterday.
Good for you, dude.
Super satisfied. I thought it was really fantastic. And again, that consistency just took it a slight notch above X-Men. The slightest of notches. I think that if you like X-Men 97 more, I think that's totally valid. I don't think there's a wrong answer. There's no wrong answer here. It's just personal preference. So,
being that I did not see the Penguin, I have no opinion of the Penguin.
Yes.
But I do have an opinion about X-Men 97.
Is that because it's your number 2?
It's because that's my number 2. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember
if you might pull a wild card of year 1 and 2, but I kind of expected maybe this is how it would go down. But yes.
Don't get me wrong. I remember just about every detail of X-Men 97, where I don't remember every single detail of my number 1. And I have personal feelings about qualities of number 1 or certain aspects of my number 1 that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, but I could still get behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yeah.
But my number two, I remember sitting in my living room inside little baby Bennett's playpen, because at this point we could still keep him contained to a little area.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
now he's running wild.
Yeah, now you just climb over that shit or kick it down or whatever. But now, but then we were going to go to Busch Gardens. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm going to watch this episode before we go to Busch Gardens. We were meeting Stephen and Haley at Busch Gardens. And there's this moment in the second season.
Yeah.
I sat there while Sarah got the baby ready just to try to round out the episode, get it done before we left for Busch Gardens. I was rocked. Then I had a tear in my eye.
Still getting some chills now, maybe?
Yeah, just thinking about it. Yeah. And says, okay, let's go to Busch Gardens. Yeah, let's go to Busch Gardens. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Get a baby all pumped up, get him ready to go to Busch Gardens. And I remember just being a shell of a human being going to Busch Gardens. And I was probably a shell for probably an hour, just it.
You weren't feeling so good, mon ami?
No, yeah, it just fucking makes you, it's it just makes you think about things, and it makes you just, I don't know, just rocks. It just rocks you as a person. And there's more than just that one episode, but that one episode's kind of like the catalyst. It's kind of like the thing that, it's kind of the thing that sticks around a little bit.
Right. I think I called it the inflection point. It's the show takes a big turn at that stage.
Yeah, at that point. Yeah. A lot of the other stuff is very cool. Like you bring up the Goblin Queen episode. I thought that shit was really fucking cool.
Yeah.
Even though it's not inflection point material, you know what I mean?
No, right. It's the not the high point, but
Mojo episode is not.
Yeah, right.
But
it's still pretty cool.
It's enough. Those episodes are enough to build characterization to where when you're left rocked, you're fucking rocked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. It's not a hollow attempt at.
Yeah, it's like an adventure for and it's cool and all, and it's fun, but it's not without its merit. It's not without making you involved in the characters in any sort of way. But when that one episode comes around, and when the last episode comes around, or the penultimate episode comes around, I think it's the penultimate one. That one hits hard too. There's one episode in here that left me fucking, oh man, what the fuck is gonna happen? Tour de force show. X-Men is tour de force just and it's more than just like a superhero show. You know what I mean? I mean, I feel like a little bit of it is nostalgic, especially for me because I didn't revisit all the X-Men, all the old school X-Men show. But it's so on point. Every episode is just, I don't know. It's topical. It's mature. It's a show that is nostalgic to the people that watched it, but carries those things forward for a more mature audience. It's very cleverly written for that purpose, and I think for that reason it makes it so much more of a better show. It's not meant for the core audience it was originally intended for. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It knows it's a show for the fans of that original show. And it recognizes that the fans are now older and more mature.
Right.
You know,
and at the same time, I think it's also inviting to people who wouldn't have watched the original show.
Yeah, you don't have to.
And it gives them enough of an entry point to jump in and get up to speed with the characters so that the impact is still felt. But I think, yes, certainly particularly for the people
the mainstays,
like who grew up on it and have the fondness for it, and have these characters were so cool, and to see them realized and put in these scenarios is just really, 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 really something.
Yeah, a very special show, and the fact that we got it at all,
totally right,
still amazes me. So,
and we're gonna get more of it,
and we're gonna get more
of
it.
Really, really exciting.
Yeah, so X-Men's number 2. I think it's a shoo-in for number 2 or number 3. Number 2, I don't know number 2. I don't know number 2.
It would have been my number 2 had I not
seen it,
found the time to watch The Penguin.
And I if you're telling me that it's number 2, it's got to be something special. So
I think it is. I think it's.
I think I'm probably going to start that this weekend. That makes me really fucking pumped.
It's as advertised. I don't think the Penguin is going to necessarily surprise you in the same ways that an X-Men 97. Like, it's not going to have the same sort of
but if it's
feel to it. But again, it just to me had that consistent, like, really high quality prestige, drama.
If you're telling me it's as close to the Batman
feel to it, yeah, I don't think it's as good as the Batman, but I think that it is set far apart enough away from it to exist in its own sort of thing, but still use kind of the touchstones, like visually, of the Batman and like the characterizations, of like, Oz himself and people around him that it really, really works, I think, as a further exploration of that Matt Reeves Batman universe, which is, I think, really, 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 really cool. So,
yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah. Well, here we are. It's number 1. I mean, I think you and I know what it's going to be because I imagine we have the same number 1. I'm just curious if our listeners are like, they haven't talked about that one show yet, or if they're like completely oblivious. I'm not really sure. But either way, I think it's safe to say we have a consensus number 1. I don't want to speak for you, but I have a sneaking suspicion that our number 1 television show of 2024 is
Shogun. Yes.
Tried to lead you in a little bit with a
Yeah, we couldn't harmonize it. We can do it like a 1, 2, 3. Shogun.
I'll try to fix it in the edit and see if it syncs right. I mean, what else was it going to be? I mean, not much of a question mark in my eyes. It pretty much from the moment I finished it, I was like, this is probably not going to be top this year, and it wasn't. So,
what an incredible show, dude!
Top to bottom.
To bottom.
I know you had issues, I think, with some of the was it the camera cinematography and stuff. I think that's kind of
like the lenses and stuff are like blown out and kind of weird
the
looking.
Lenses, that's right, camera lenses. Yeah.
But hey, that's. I think just not an outside looking in, just an observation. I think a lot of people struggle with being able to make a critique about something without recognizing that, just because I would do it differently doesn't make
suddenly make it bad, or like, like there's nuance to be had of, I don't like this thing about it, but that doesn't mean like I can't like everything else about it and that be enough.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I think that society as a whole struggles with that kind of idea. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, we look at things in very binary ways. Of you like it's either the best thing ever, it's the worst thing ever, and there's
it's unfortunate.
There's no in between. There's no nuance to be had, really. So yeah, I mean, I don't feel the same way. But we're, I think, probably still basically on the same page about this show overall. Right?
Still an incredible fucking show. It's nuts. It's so good.
It's so good.
It's enough to make me... I've been playing a samurai game on my PlayStation.
Yeah. Ghost of Tsushima, huh?
Yes. And I watched Blue Eye Samurai. I've been on samurai kick.
You're on a kick.
For probably, I mean, it's probably at least been, well, it's been at least 9 months since the show came out.
It started in March, I think, and probably would have wrapped up April, May, something like that. But you're talking half a year plus at this point. And
I'm still on the samurai kick, dude.
And like that is owing to Shogun, you would say?
Yeah. It explores everything. It's just, man, the cinematography largely as a whole is beautiful. The composition of the shots is beautiful. There's little quirks here and there that I don't like. But the story is rich. It's grounded in it's like a historical drama, which makes it even more wildly interesting. The acting is second to none. Like it's just
Everyone is just fantastic.
It's a super rich show.
And I think it's the richest show of 2024, which is probably why it's number one. I mean, I think just the complexity of like the production design from every aspect, like just where, like just visually what it is.
Yeah.
Recreating this period of Japanese history, the different, places and like, the towns and the cities that it's kind of like, it's just so transformative, transportative, I guess, taking you, back to this time in history, which is so incredible. And just the attention to detail with all of it is so immaculate. But beyond that, you also have, the languages that are spoken and the way that language is so interwoven into the narrative itself, which is so complex and intricate and fascinating to watch. But and something that we would have talked about, we did the score. Hey, I have a vinyl of this one, so
likewise, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I think there's no aspect of this show which feels underbaked or undercooked or underserviced. Like it feels like this is, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's something that we harp on a lot, when we certainly talk about movies and stuff too, is just this level of attention to detail is not always seen. Sometimes a Starbucks cup gets left on the table in Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? There's no Starbucks cups going around in Shogun, No, so
there's not.
Yeah, it just unparalleled, I think, almost in some ways too. Like the Penguin is incredible, but and it is kind of creating this world in itself, which is close to our world, but not quite the same. It's this fictionalized Gotham, but something about the way that Shogun does the costuming. That's another thing, and all these what I would consider pretty goofy fucking hairstyles, but hey, you rock it, guys. You want to shave some bald patches, you do you. I don't know, man. There's really nothing like it, I don't think. I mean, I guess there is in the sense that they made a 1980 miniseries of Shogun, also based on the James Clavell novel, which I haven't seen, to be fair, but I have to imagine it does not have the same level of production quality that this one does, given the obviously amount of resources and care that went into this one for sure. I think anyone that hasn't watched Shogun is doing themselves a disservice. It's my honest opinion.
That's a good one.
I think that it is a show that, like, I mean, look, it's maybe not the most bingeable show. There's a lot of reading involved, lots of subtitles. It is,
a lot of stuff to think about too in between.
In large part in Japanese, and I think it's a relatively heady show in the sense that, like, it's like, yeah, you got to, like, absorb it. Like the intricacies of the politics, the politicking, and between the regents ruling in Japan at the time. Like, I think there's a lot going on. But I do think that this is a show that, to me, seems like it should be pretty rewatchable. Having not rewatched it, I can't specifically speak to it. But it just feels like there's just layers upon layers of detail to this show that you could appreciate more and more as you watch it and kind of go back to it. And I would say also, just getting things off my chest, Hiroyuki Sanada, Cosmo Jarvis, Anna Sawai, Tadanobu Asano, and Moika Hoshi plays Fujisama. Those actors in particularly, and not to discount anyone else that I didn't name, because everyone's fantastic in this, but those 5 are absolutely incredible. Game-changing performances. Hiroyuki Sanada has always been fantastic, but the others, I think, were more like a revelation. Anna Sawai in particular, Mariko-sama, is, what a phenomenal character. And so, yeah, Shogun, man. Fucking hell. What a fucking show Shogun was.
Special show.
Very, very special show. We're getting more of it. I don't know how I feel about it just yet still. I don't need it. It's definitely a show that feels like it could and probably should be one and done. I will watch more of it. I'm not saying I won't, but I'm still ambivalent on that prospect of continuing it. I think that it's going to be really, really difficult to match the heights of season 1, and it's I quite honestly don't expect them to. But as long as it doesn't, ruin the legacy of it, I guess, in some ways. If it's pretty good but not as good, fine. Like, it'll be nice to revisit some of these things, but
we don't want
just treating season 1 like on its own. Man, what an absolute powerhouse of a show it was.
It would almost be like a True Detective situation if it really, like, shit the bed.
Yeah, well, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't shit the bed. Give me at a minimum good enough to feel like, all right, even if it couldn't quite meet the same heights, I understand why they continued the story. If the reason they're continuing the story is people really like the first one and we're like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing, and we're just gonna hope that something works, aka True Detective season 2, then yeah, it's gonna necessarily,
it's gonna suck ass. It's
impact,
gonna be real.
Your overall feelings on the show. So as it stands right now, when Shogun is a sort of one and done, nothing like it out there. Again, except for maybe the 1980 miniseries of the same story. But any other thoughts for you on Shogun?
No, that is quite literally it. You covered. That's number 1. Like I said, it eclipses. For me, I think for the longest time on this podcast, I think Chernobyl is probably the thing that I've sung the highest praise. Yeah, and this is right there with it. That and what's that other HBO show? The one on the video game. It's, Last of Us was up there. Yeah. That's top tier television. This is top tier television. This is something special.
It's right up there. It's not just really good. It is it'll transcend 2024 in terms of like people will talk about Shogun
next year or this year, I should say, when we're talking about this early 2026. I'll be asking was Shogun this year or last year?
Right, because you're still going to be thinking about it.
Because I was like, that was really fucking good. I think that was probably my pick. know, hopefully not. Hopefully something eclipses it, but
right. We don't know what it'll be. I guess, you know, we'll talk about obviously all the TV shows we have to look forward to in a couple episodes time, but you know, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything quite on the Shogun tier, but would love to be wrong. I guess we'll just have to find out firsthand. But
I struggled not putting Shogun in some of our.
You wanted to put it for some of our film categories. Well, yeah. I mean, if we broke down TV more and more, I think it probably could have swept the acting categories. It probably would have swept production design, screenplay. I guess adapted screen. It couldn't win best original screenplay. I guess it would get shut out there. But score, maybe
it definitely enters the conversation in a lot of them for sure.
Cinematography, maybe. Production design, definitely. Visual effects, maybe. I don't know. Most people getting boiled in a hot pot. Definitely going to win that one.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Unwatchable. Yeah.
All right.
We get to kick off some fun ones here, though.
Yeah. So to round out what we're talking about on part one of our year in review coverage, we are going to get into some films. We're going to do some fun film things, and then we're going to shut things down before we get into the technical awards. We'll save that for the next episode for part two. But we're gonna start. We're gonna have some fun things to say about some of these films. Some of the more negative ones that we do, we'll start off with that, and then just like genre, kind of more specific things and stuff like that. So let's kick things off talking about films in 2024 with the category Worst Film of 2024. So again, as I said,
Razzie.
Right. And this is going to have a split. We will do most disappointing film next, just to make that clear. So this is straight up just worst film that you saw in 2024, which is not to say that it is absolutely the worst film released in 2024. Of course, it's all opinion. You can't really say that definitively. Like for me, I know that like my answer, I'm like, I know there are definitely worse movies that I didn't see, but what I picked is the worst movie that I did see.
Yeah.
So, and that will be, I assume, true for you as well. So, well, I guess we kind of had a consensus number one there. So I don't know how. Do you want to kick this off? Do you have any?
I can kick it off
here. Maybe we'll have a consensus pick here as well. I don't know. We'll see.
I feel like the worst film, at least that we covered. I can't remember any worse movies that I've watched outside of what we cover for the podcast.
Okay.
So with that being said, I think my worst film is, and it was kind of a toss-up between this and most disappointing.
Okay.
But ultimately, I picked another one just for the sake of having conversation, I think. So I'm the worst film for my money is probably going to be Gladiator.
We do indeed have a consensus pick for our worst film of 2024.
I'm positive that there's worse movies.
Absolutely. We talked about the Sony Marvel movies. I have no doubt that Madam Web, Venom, The Last Dance, and Kraven the Hunter are all worse. Joker, Fudafafa is definitely worse. Harold and the Purple Crayon is definitely fucking worse. There's no doubt in my mind that there is some absolute tripe that came out.
There's some shit out
in 2024
there for sure.
that is 100% worse than Gladiator 2, which I would say is bad in its own right, but not all-time Wrinkle in Time, levels of absolute dreck.
We just don't not that. Expose ourselves. We don't expose ourselves to that level of shit anymore.
We insulate ourselves from the shit.
That's right.
Because, we
don't have time for that.
Number one, you got to be watching most of these things either in a theater, paying for it, or watching it on VOD, paying for it, or waiting for it to come to streaming. And then by the time you wait for it to come to streaming, like, you can just go on Rotten Tomatoes and be like, oh, this got 25%.
I'm going to avoid it. Fuck that.
I'm
not going to sit there and watch that shit.
You should you should form your own opinions. You shouldn't rely on others to tell you what to do. But at the same time,
if 110,000 people say it's shit, well, it's probably shit.
This movie, I watched a trailer for it. It was bad. It looked bad. I thought it was going to be shit. All the reviews are shit. I've looked up user reviews. They think it's shit. Do I really need to spend 2 hours of my life just to watch it and say,
well, the first one was good,
shit.
So yes.
And I've done it before. I did it 2023. I watched The Exorcist Believer. It fits all of those marks. Looked bad. Released, it was like, I don't know, like, are they going to be able to do this? Bad reviews. People didn't like it. I watched it. It was just as bad as everyone said it was. So, sometimes you know enough to stay away, to steer clear. Gladiator 2, I mean, we had an interest in it, right? Because we love, that first Gladiator movie is awesome. We did a bonus episode. It's cool. It holds up for the most part.
So it's got Denzel.
Right. It's got Denzel in it. It's got I don't know, other people in it maybe. It's got Joseph Quinn in it.
It had Pedro in it.
It's got Pedro in it. Yeah, I mean, come on. How could a Gladiator with a Pedro Pascal in it be bad? Well, Ridley Scott, you've done it. You've done it, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
So what is it about Gladiator 2 that makes it the worst film that you saw in 2020?
Man, I just really wanted to like it.
And kind of just never. It just got worse, I think.
It got worse, yeah. It's almost like Halo for me, I sat in Halo.
Yeah.
Well, that and the fact that, the loudest fucking speaker in the theater was blown when I went and watched it. That was another thing.
You had a subpar, to be generous, experience.
It was awful. It was, dude. It's almost like talking about Dune. I just get pissed off fucking thinking about that experience.
Well, at least it didn't have that guy in it. Otherwise, you probably straight up walked out of the theater. He shows up in the arena.
I would have just fucking got up. I would have got up and left. I would have quit.
Could have made him one of the emperors, or he could have played the monkey. He could have been the monkey.
The fucking the nightmare looking thing, the nightmare creature that was in the.
It could have been the weird baboon thing.
Oh my god, I don't know. Where do you start with this movie?
Could have been a shark. Could have been a shark in the battle.
It was just contrived. It was paced weird. Some of it didn't make sense. A lot of it didn't make sense. Yeah. There's the fucking the senator guy who's just a goober,
absolute goober.
Yeah, man. There's just a lot.
There's not a lot in it to like. TBH.
No, yeah, right.
There's really not.
Even if there was some badass gladiator stuff in there. That's at a minimal.
Right. But even that is not.
It's not enough to carry the movie.
And it's also not necessarily there. It's not like there are amazing sequences. Nothing in this to me was any better than what we already saw in the first Gladiator.
No, but it was actively worse than what we saw in the first Gladiator.
Right, the baboon shit was ridiculous. The naval thing was neat. But it was kind of comical in the same way too. It was ridiculous. It was entertaining, but it was ridiculous, and not in I'm loving this sort of way. I'm just in the way that I watched Godzilla times Kong sort of way, which is not what you want out of a Gladiator 2. No. I don't want it to be a big goofy kaiju thing, with goofy ass sharks, CGI sharks swimming around. It just and that was kind of the whole movie, was just kind of shit like that, where it just old man Ridley, man, just going too far in every place possible, not knowing how to rein things in, and no one there, he's George Lucasing it, no one's there to tell him no. And so its best parts are just rehashing the original Gladiator, and its worst parts are, again, just really just actively bad things. So you got two Jaquans, but they're both worse. You have a Russell Crowe. You have a Maximus, but he's not as good. He's not as compelling or charming or charismatic. You have Pedro, who's totally wasted, and not he's not drunk. Maybe he was. I don't know. In which case, hey, whatever you want to do, I get it. But his role in this is kind of a nothing burger. It's not anything special. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I kind of agree. It's most disappointing is probably fair enough to throw it in that category too. I think the difference for me is almost from the inception of this, and from the fact that it was called Gladiator 2 or Gladiator as it is in the movie. It's my expectations are actually pretty low for this. I'm interested in it in the sense that I think there's a way to continue, the story here in a really interesting way. And the way to do it is not just rehash the first movie, but worse. But I kind of expected it would be that. And it was, and I was, I guess, surprised in the sense that it's probably more, it probably fits in the most surprising film category of, I'm surprised by how worse it was than I actually thought it would be. The expectations were
pretty low,
but they still kind of managed to surpass how low they were. But I don't know. At the same time, though, there really is nothing there's nothing I watched this year of 2024 movies, I should say, where I'm like, no, that was definitely like again, bringing up Godzilla times Kong. Like Godzilla times Kong is probably like a worse made movie in certain ways, but I had fun with it. Like I knew what it was. I knew it was going to be kind of like a borderline piece of shit, popcorn brain sort of movie, and like it's dumb as all hell, but I still enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Like I would never say it's good. It's not. But Gladiator 2 was like actively bad in some ways, where it's just like, oh, they're really trying for something on the same prestige level as the original Gladiator and floundering, in the attempt to do so. So yeah, that's what I got on it. Gladiator 2.
What'd you have for disappointing? I'm curious.
Most disappointing film of 2024. Yeah. I think so. My runner-up to this is probably Beetlejuice.
Okay.
Which I thought had a lot of potential, but didn't quite nail it. Like I had some good elements in it, and then some elements like the third act, particularly, where it just felt like it went way too fucking long, and tried to do the Deo thing, but in a far less memorable way. So I guess it kind of had the same pitfalls as something like Gladiator 2 did, where it's trying to rehash the things that it didn't really need to rehash. Like it would have been better to go in a fresher direction.
Right.
But at the same time, Beetlejuice brought me, I think it was Dostoevsky that said, "Later, fucker." I'm like Michael Keaton was an absolute joy. He nailed it. I could not put it as most disappointing, because if you watch it just for Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice,
it was enough.
If you watch it for Willem Dafoe being a ridiculous asshole, worth it. You know what I mean? Like it's a disappointing combination of its elements. Like it doesn't really know how to put all the pieces together. And like it's almost, maybe it's doing too much even. Like it's just too much shit, and it just needed to pick a lane. But I think the most disappointing film for me, it hurts, and I guess that's why it's why it's the most disappointing film. It's Longlegs.
Ooh.
It's Longlegs for me.
Okay.
Which I think I liked overall, I should say. When you look at this category, it's expectations versus, what you get.
Yeah, sure.
And Longlegs has a lot to like in it. The first two acts, I think, are great. The third act and kind of the way that it handles things, the direction that it goes in, I thought was wildly disappointing to me.
Yeah, totally.
Like my heart just like sank as I was watching the movie of like, oh no.
It's just a misstep, right? Felt like a misstep every time.
And I just felt like it was so close to being something really, really fantastic. And it just moved in a direction, and maybe it's personal taste, although I think you and I did agree in this sense. Like it just felt like I don't know, man. It just became every other horror movie ever. And that was to its disservice, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that
for
was
sure.
that really, really hampered my overall enjoyment of it. Where it's just like, in the same way that like something like Promising Young Woman, I thought was 2/3, 3/4 of it, a really, really great movie, and then 1/4 of an absolute, that one I think was just like, what the hell is this shit? This one was like, I've seen this before. This is not doing anything novel or interesting. Like I thought it was, but it's not. It's not. And it's very deliberately not even trying to. And that's what's disappointing, is it's sidestepping its potential to do something interesting. And
that's what makes it
wild and out there.
Yeah, right.
And it's decided, I'm just going to go for the most boilerplate traditional thing possible, which will not, thrill or enthrall you or excite you in any way imaginable. It will make you think that you have seen something special, and then you realize, oh no, this is just everything else.
Right.
And that's why it was the most disappointing film for me, was like so close. And it was knocking on the door of being something so special. The marketing was great. So I had a lot of hype going in. And even though I still liked it overall, I think it has, a lot to offer. It's really, really well made on the whole. I just think that the narrative decisions I disagreed with strongly. And it's not my story to tell. Obviously, and that was the intent, clearly, and it is what it is, but I just think that it's not, it felt like a betrayal of what it was going for, and I think that, that to me was just, I just didn't like that. So anyway, that's what I got. What about you? Most disappointing?
For me, I think Longlegs is a really good one. I remember being pretty pumped about that one.
But not your pick.
But I did not ultimately pick that one. I actually ultimately picked Alien Romulus.
Oh, okay.
Alien Romulus, I stick behind it every time I talk about this movie. Every single time I talk about it.
That's got some fourth act woes, perhaps you could say.
I say it is 75% of a excellent, awesome, incredibly well-made movie. And then 25%, it just fucking, like, the knees crumpled at the landing. You know what I mean?
It really is the same argument to be made, I think, for that movie. That's a really good point. I'll agree. I'm not going to change my pick, but I agree in what you're saying, yeah.
And so for that reason, I wanted to like it. Freddy Alvarez, I still stick behind that. I think he's the best director for the job. I think he nailed it.
Yeah.
I think that you had the face thing, which was apparently corrected in post, or not post, but like on post release, I should say.
The home video release. They touched up the CGI for,
which even further drills home the fact that the director is the right guy for the job. It just. I haven't seen it since it's been corrected, but presumably it's corrected the way it should be.
I mean, I've seen a clip, that the people have posted, like the comparison. It looks better. It still doesn't look amazing. Let's put it that way.
Okay, fair enough.
And it's still unnecessary, I think, narratively speaking.
Absolutely. Yeah, but the big one, because that is a thing, but the biggest
it's definitely
one,
a thing.
The biggest thing for me was
just
the last
the whole last sequence.
Last 15, 20 minutes of the movie. Man, it just really turned into a big stinker right there at the end.
Yeah.
That it turned into a big stinker, but it made a big stinker. You know what I mean?
It just felt like an unnecessary and one more thing to just tack on. Like, it's a horror thing to, you think that the threat is gone, but then there's another threat or the threat's back, okay. And that's pretty standard, but I think it just really, really dragged on. It felt like, okay, we are at a resolution stage. Like, obviously some things have went down. Not everyone has made it out alive. And then now it's just like, oh no, here's another 20-minute segment that really, really fucks up the pacing of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of narratively fucking, stupid. You know what I mean? It's some real Prometheus shit.
Yeah, it really bummed me out.
In many ways. So, yeah.
So that's my most disappointing movie.
Totally valid. Totally agree with that. The overall, I actually kind of blocked out that part of the movie. Like I have it on my list of like movies that I'm considering, and I kind of forgot about that. Like I've managed to be like, that I have a fan edit in my brain that
it doesn't have any of that
right. Portion of that. It ends when it should. Yeah. Good call. Still sticking with mine, but good call. All right, a few more. Most surprising film. The corollary to most disappointing film is the most surprising film. What did you have rock bottom expectations for, or at least minimal, low, no expectations for? And hot damn, they did it. Hot damn, they brought you something. Something out of nothing.
That for me would be Wicked.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That for me would also be Wicked.
Really?
So let's talk about Wicked.
All right. So Wicked, the marketing materials made it look like shit.
Absolute ass. Just real bad.
Yeah.
CGI crap. Green screen crap. Just absolute crap. Bottom barrel crap.
Absolutely. Yeah. They need to fire that marketing team, or at least provide them with,
fire them before part 2 comes out, because
yeah, right. Or at least, give them some guidance, on how to do a better job. One of the two. I've turned into a big training guy the past couple weeks.
Yeah. The answer is not fire everyone. Maybe someone let them down along the way and didn't show them the light.
Take some personal responsibility for your shitty marketing. You approved it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, somebody said yes. It's ultimately your fault. You know,
that's valid. That's a nice stance to take.
So anyways, marketing really shit the bed on this one. I think, I don't know this to be true. I think this is the first time we've actually talked about Wicked. I know that you have a lot more personal stake in, or you've had a lot more experience with Wicked. I think you've seen the actual.
I've seen the show on Broadway, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But for my money, from like the dances, the performances, and maybe it's because my expectations were set in the dirt. But I was honestly thoroughly, not, I would say completely blown away. There's a Spawn cape at the end, which is kind of weird. She's breaking this sound barrier, holding onto a broom, which is a little fucking like that, like peel your face off, so some of it just is a little bit, I'm not there for all of it, but I'd say I'm there for probably 80% of it, 85% of it,
which is about 80% more than you thought you'd be.
Absolutely. 110%. I thoroughly 100% enjoyed it. Even when it is stupid, I am there for it. And I thought it was wildly entertaining. I thought the music was outstanding. I thought the performances were top notch. And I was very much impressed with it. 110%. Like it's almost Bumblebee. I would say it might even exceed Bumblebee levels of surprise.
Of surprising, yeah.
I think this is honestly the most surprised movie that I think I've ever seen. It's 100% 180.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's me.
Valid. No, totally valid. It's basically more or less why I picked it. I mean, my expectations were in the dirt. I think probably for the same reason of the marketing was ass, but for maybe a slightly different reason of I know that this show is really good, and I think the casting and the visuals and the design and everything of this looks like a really, really shitty version of that. Like they've not done anything justice. Come to find out, you actually watched the damn movie that was hidden in the marketing materials, and like, oh, they actually did build sets and have actual costumes, and like, there's definitely some CGI flying monkeys that look like shit, and Spawn capes. Like, there's some moments here and there where it does kind of have that overly glossy, shitty sort of look that was in the marketing, but they really managed to disguise the fact that it was going to be a relatively pretty faithful adaptation of the musical. And that these actors were really going to crush it. The Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, both. To me, I was really surprised by both of them. And I was just surprised that, it was a pretty good version of the first half of the musical. And the fact that it was as long as it is, but didn't feel as long as it is. And it didn't feel like half of a movie. Obviously there's story to come, to be continued and whatever. But it didn't feel like a big fuck you, when the movie ended of come see the second half in a year. Really, I was really surprised by that. Yeah, really surprised that it felt like a cohesive, proper movie, I guess,
yeah, totally.
Relative to our expectations. And so, yeah, that's why it's the most surprising film. And the music's great. Of course, the music's great. I think that it's based off of a really, really good musical. And, it had every reason to be good, because if they just stuck to where they were given, the material they were given, they would do it right. And I think that the expectation was they hadn't done that, and they had gone in this weird direction with casting. And yeah, I was definitely proven wrong. So, that would be the best. That would be the most surprising film. 3 more categories. Best animated film. Now, I already said I didn't watch a lot. So I think from scrubbing my list of things that I saw, I believe I only watched one new animated movie in the entirety of 2024.
No way, dude. Really?
So it's pretty easy for me to slot something in for my pick here. However, I would also say if I had watched another 4 or 5 animated movies in 2024, I think there's a very good chance that this would be my pick regardless. And so my best animated film, perhaps yours as well, is The Wild Robot.
Yeah, totally agree.
I mean, what the fuck, dude? That movie was incredible.
It's Wall-E on steroids. I think I could watch every animated movie for probably the next 3 years, and it'd probably still be one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I like Inside Out too. Big movie, made a lot of money. I probably would think it's great. I don't know that it's gonna. I find it hard to believe that I would like it more than The Wild Robot.
100% behind you on that. Only and not for any other reason than personal preference. You know what I mean? I really the whole premise and backstory of The Wild Robot really just hits home with me. And I mean, it's a deeply personal movie for me. And we watched it with like a couch full of people, and I was fucking struggling the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's
I watched it on my own, and the waterworks were happening.
Man, what a movie! And it's not even that like narratively is it strong, because it is. It's incredibly strong.
It's that, but it is more than that, right?
The animation is beautiful.
Yeah. Style, technique is just beautiful to look at. Voice acting is really phenomenal.
Did we cover this one? We covered this one, didn't we?
We did. We did do an episode on this one. So we've said some of these things aloud before.
Ah, man. It's a very special movie. They don't come around very often. This is
the much better Pedro Pascal 2024.
Yeah, right. Way. Yeah, for sure.
It was great.
But yeah, I can't say anything that I haven't said already. If you really want some feelings on it, the recency biased and everything will very much be present in our episode that we covered it in. But
at the same time, now you're looking back a few months at least since we watched it, and it stands up. I mean, I don't know if you saw any other animated movies in 2024, so you might be in the same boat of it being the choice by default, but it's not like, I would say if I watched one animated movie in 2024 and it was shit, I probably would have scrapped this category entirely and just be like, look, I don't really have a good answer for this, and I'm not going to just give it to something because I have to.
Right.
Like, this is here because it deserves to be. And it's really phenomenal. I think it's streaming now too on Peacock, maybe. I could be wrong. I think Peacock, maybe.
That's a shame.
Well, I mean, you got a 7-day trial. Watch it 7 days in a row. But yeah, no. I mean, I think however you watch it, I think Andrew and I both spent the $30 to buy it in 4K. I don't regret a single penny of that. I want to rewatch it. Anna didn't watch it with me. I kind of had to watch it at a certain, I had a limited window to watch it so that we could record on it, at the right time. But I've said basically since watching it, like, I will happily rewatch this movie. I think it is a rewatchable movie. So The Wild Robot is yet another consensus pick for Watch Review Repeat's best animated film of 2024. Which brings us to the best superhero film of 2024. I think, I guess it's your turn, so I don't want to steal your thunder, but pretty limited pool here, I guess.
Well, there is a pool.
Oh,
this one's a shoo-in for me.
Is it the Deadpool, the mutant killer?
Yeah, definitely got to be Deadpool on this one. Okay. And it's not even that it's like, it's like the only superhero movie. It's really the best thing. It's really the best superhero movie I've seen in quite a long time, honestly. It's very good.
Yeah. Deadpool and Wolverine, man. Also my pick, so yet another consensus pick that we've got here, best superhero film.
How about that?
I mean, yeah, it's competition. Were the three Sony Marvel movies. This was the only MCU movie that came out. There was no DC movie that came out, at least theatrically. There might have been some like animated ones that came out straight to video or whatever, but I hadn't seen any of those. So I mean, it is the default answer, but I agree. Like it's really, really good. I mean, it's, you know, there's cameos and, you know, and
it's
stuff
Deadpool.
That like probably, you know, and like, you know, some of the jokes probably aren't as funny the seventh time you hear them, you know, so like, I don't know how rewatchable this movie will be in the same way that like something like Spider-Man No Way Home had so much impact when you saw Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. Like rewatching now probably doesn't have the same type of feel, but I do think there's a core to this movie that I think will still make it worthwhile to me. Like I think that, you know, I mean, like there's obviously an inherent level of joy of Deadpool being thrown into the MCU and Deadpool being allowed to properly interact with a Hugh Jackman Wolverine, not like the bullshit that we got in X-Men Origins Wolverine. So like there's so much novelty to it that I think like makes it for like at least a first or second watch, like so just like, you know, slack-jawed watching it. But I do think there's a real, again, like a real emotional core to it, which I think is really good. And I think that that's the kind of thing that for me makes it really work, I think, overall, you know, and it's got all the things that you'd want out of like a Deadpool movie. You know, it's violent, it's got the humor. But again, I think the things that really tie it together are these, you know, these two characters and the way they interact and the way they kind of come together and, you know, have fight scenes and, what was the, goddamn it? Is it an Odyssey? Honda Odyssey? Is that what they're fighting?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That was special.
Yeah, I don't know. There's really, you know, there's good fun spectacle stuff, but I do think that there's more to it than just being like, you know, look at all these Deadpool variants or look at this character from maybe from a prior Fox Marvel movie, and like I think there is more to it than that. You know, ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself, yeah, or, you know, shit like that. Like it's funny, don't get me wrong, but it's yeah, I don't know. I really had a blast with it. You know, for all of the reasons of the crazy, you know, fan servicey sorts of things that it's doing, which, you know, work on me and maybe wouldn't work as well on other people. But also just narratively, like it's not perfect. Like, you know, the timey-wimey multiverse shit gets a little convoluted and complicated and somewhat nonsensical when you try to like break it down too much. But I think that, you know, as was true, I think, of the other Deadpool movies and you know, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, I think giving those two kind of like an emotional arc to follow, I think like makes it work. Makes it work, I think, overall. So that's why I had it. Oh, you have any other thoughts?
No, I thought it was really well done. Like you say, it's more than, well, I don't know.
It's more than meets the eye.
Yeah,
but it's not Transformers.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's good for the same reasons that the old or the Deadpools before it were good. But I think this one offers they continue to push the envelope, you know what I mean? They continue to elevate what they do. And I think that I mean, I think it's probably better than the first and second one. I think I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I definitely like it better than two. I don't know if it's better than one for me. I think one has just this real nice simplicity to it, which I think gives it a more timeless quality, I think, maybe for me.
It's fair.
But this one was pure joy to watch, you know, for the 2 hours that it ran. Like it was, I had a grin on my face, you know,
the whole time
for one reason or another, you know, basically the entire time. And it never really lost me at any point either. So yeah, really, really, really great fun. I didn't watch Madam Web. I didn't watch Venom. I didn't watch Craven,
so we can't say for sure.
Can't definitively say if they would have displaced Deadpool and Wolverine. But again, in the same way that I felt about the Wild Robot, I feel pretty confident that a Deadpool and Wolverine would have earned its slot regardless. So there, another consensus pick. Look at that, back to back. No, wow. back to back. Oh, 3 in a row, man. Let's see if we can go for 4 with our final category of part 1, a new category. Best popcorn movie. What does that mean? It's just like a movie that you go see in a theater. You just want to like munch on popcorn the whole time. You don't really
check your brain at the door. Maybe you had a long day at work.
Check your brain at the door. Yeah, maybe have a couple Hopsecutioners to go with your popcorn.
Oh yeah, dude.
You know,
you do that up there too, or is that just me?
Well, I don't know if the Hopsecutioners are up here. They've probably got more regional brews, but you know, I know you're partial to them, Mr. Georgia boy. You don't even live there, you know, it is just very much like what is just going to make me feel like I just want to have peak fun in the cinema right now. 2 hours, I'm going to shut my brain off. I'm going to munch on this popcorn, slurp down some Hopsecutioners, and I'm just going to revel in whatever bullshit is in front of me. And I don't want it to be bullshit. I don't want it to be Gladiator 2. Gladiator 2 could have been that, but, you know, there's too much stupidity in it. You know, like I couldn't turn my brain off because the expectations were there. Like, I thought it would be something more than a popcorn movie, and so that held it back. So that's kind of what a popcorn movie is to me. I don't know if you looked at it differently in terms of evaluating this, but
you know, like when you eat something, you know, like when you're sitting there munching, like for me, it's potato chips. I don't eat a lot of popcorn, but I eat a lot of potato chips, and like you can't quite hear because you're munching at the same time. Sometimes the sound of the munch, like, you know, it rattles your
drowns out the dialogue.
Yeah,
is this like kind of thing? It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. You know, there's enough like I'm going to sit here and munch this popcorn because popcorn's good, or potato chips are good.
Love
you know,
potato chips, yeah,
and I'm enjoying what I'm visually like taking in through my eyeballs. And I might miss a couple words here and there, but it doesn't really matter because it's simple.
It's the kind of movie that you could halfway through be like, I kind of got to piss, and leave for 2 minutes and come back and be like, I don't really care.
No, you know, it's simple. It's a simple movie. Simple man, simple pleasure kind of movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's what this is. And so this is the final category, because it is before we fully transition on the next episode to being like hyper analytic about like this is the best aspect of this movie. I thought it'd be fun to let's just talk about a thing that's probably not going to be necessarily talked about on a part 2, you know, and in the technical awards, we're not going to give it to, you know, like this kind of we're going to give a movie here probably recognition that it may not find elsewhere, if that makes sense.
That's good.
So do you want to offer yours?
Yeah. You know, so for me, it was, I actually watched the best superhero and what I actually nominated as the best popcorn movie in the same day. I think while one is a superhero movie and one is definitely not a superhero movie, I think that they both could be interchanged as a popcorn movie.
Yes. Okay.
And so
I know what you're talking about.
Ultimately, I gave best popcorn movie to Twisters, and I thought it's a fabulous fucking popcorn movie.
Twins. We got twins.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's perfect. It's exactly, you know.
And I say that because I also picked Twisters.
You picked Twisters. All right. See, I mean, like if there was
same wavelength, man.
Same wavelength. You know, so it's fun. There's a little romantic chemistry. Nothing outrageous or on like, you know.
No, it's not too sexy.
Not too
too sexy in our Twisters.
Could have been just a little bit more sexy, in my opinion.
It could have been a little bit more sexy, but it wasn't not sexy either. I mean, Glenn Powell, he just exudes sex, you know.
You know, but you know, that's cool. It's whatever. Some of the deaths were, you know, a little bit simple. You know, just
sure.
You know, but that's okay. It's whatever. People getting sucked out of a movie theater. That was cool, you know?
Yeah. This guy's got a truck. He's got to put the fucking drill
on there. Fucking drills on his truck. Oh, I forgot about the drills on the truck.
Chemicals to destroy the
fucking
Twisters.
Fireworks into the Twisters. Like, it's just, you know, it's just cool. It's just cool shit. You know? It's
Superman's in it and he's a real asshole.
Very much popcorn. You know, very much popcorn.
Totally. Like, what else does this movie have going for it? I don't know. I guess it had a pretty good soundtrack, actually. People like the soundtrack.
It did.
Well.
It did.
So I guess it could come up.
You know, at the same time, Deadpool had a very popcorn soundtrack. Madonna, while you know, Deadpool and Wolverine are like getting like their clothes are getting shredded off, and you see sweaty abs and shit. That's cool. Sure. That's popcorn all day long, dude. But
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I feel confident in my pick between as Twisters as the best popcorn movie of the year. Summer blockbuster, dude. Summer blockbuster movie.
Peak summer blockbuster.
What do you want?
Check your brain at the door. Just have a damn good time.
Yeah.
And that's how the first one was. This was a legacy sequel that wasn't, they didn't do the thing of I'm the kid, I'm Bill Paxton's kid and you're Helen, and like they didn't try to make it that connected to the first one, and I think that really was to its benefit. Like it really did a lot of the same sorts of things of like making, reminding you of what the first one was, but narratively it was its own thing, and that was really kind of refreshing in its own way. So like, yeah, I mean, it was fucking absurd. It's fucking ridiculous. It's just Glenn Powelling about Daisy Edgar Jonesing about. I don't know. I haven't really seen her in other stuff, but she was good. I liked her. I thought she was like everyone showed up. They gave it their all. They had like the collective energy of Glenn Powell's group to form one Philip Seymour Hoffman, which is what you need to do to replace the Philip Seymour Hoffman, the Voltron of Philip Seymour Hoffmans.
That's it. It's pretty good.
And I don't know, man. It's just a fucking blast. What an absolute joy that movie was.
It was pretty cool.
Like super rewatchable, dumb as all fuck. Of course it is, but not in a Godzilla times Kong way either. In like a pseudo grounded, realistic sort of way.
In a simple
that works
way.
Because of its charming, in a simple way, charming cast, relatively simple sort of thing of like, yeah, we get it. Twisters are bad; they ruin things, and we're gonna fucking fight the Twisters. Okay,
whatever, dude.
All right, You got the storm chasers, and you've got, the people who are in it for the science and the passion and protecting. All right. I mean, I don't know, man. It's just joy. Just joy in a movie. I don't know. Is it amazing? No. Is it in my top 10 movies of the year? No. But did I have an absolute blast with it? Yes.
And it's happy to be that. Which is good.
And it really probably didn't aspire to be much more than that.
Right.
And that's okay. We need movies to fit this sort of criteria, we need movies like this. And I think Deadpool and Wolverine could be, thrown into this category as well, and I think would be a valid answer.
If we didn't have a superhero category, well, then we're having a debate between Twisters.
Yeah, then
and Deadpool.
Then you might be throwing them in there. And I think the other thing that I even thought about for this was the Fall Guy. I thought the Fall Guy was
I never
really
watched
fun
that
popcorn
one. It
movie.
looked good though. It looked like good popcorn.
Great chemistry between Gosling and Emily Blunt. Fun stunts and stuff, but not aspiring to be anything amazing, but just kind of fun, raucous, joyous energy. I just enjoy it, But Twisters was kind of the peak of that. Twisters is kind of the peak, so.
Solid picks.
Well, there we have it. That's what we have for part one. Not a moment too soon. Perhaps in our
look at that perfect timing.
Attempts to split this, we're like now we're like, oh, we don't have to go too quickly. We can linger with this. But hey, I guess that's maybe the drawback of this format. But alas, that's it. We're done. Part one's over. Go home. See ya. No, all right.
Until next time.
I'll give you the full spiel. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, spread the word. We're on Patreon at patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. $2 a month will get you early access to all of our regular episodes. So when we record part 2, you could be the first to listen to that and hear our top 5 movies of the year, which would be pretty cool. If you are listening to this, and maybe you have some thoughts about your favorite TV shows, your favorite movies of the year, you can send your picks to us at watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Maybe, just maybe, we'll have a space to talk about that on part 2 if we get some submissions of people's favorites of the year. I'd be happy to talk about that. I know we've done that past couple of years. Our website's watchreviewrepeat.com. You can get links to our socials there, including Instagram or at watchreviewrepeat, facebook.com/watchreviewrepeat. We are on Blue Sky as well. We have fully moved over to Blue Sky at this point, and I have to check what our thing is. I believe it's at watchreviewrepeat.bsky.social. I had to check that. We're still getting used to that change there, but we are on Blue Sky now, so follow us there. Our intro and outro tracks, Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. we'll be back with part 2 of 2024, a year in review. We will have all of our technical awards to hand out, from score, soundtrack, screenplay, acting, to our honorable mentions and top 5 films of the year. So you don't want to miss that. And we'll hopefully have that for you hopefully soon. So until then, Andrew, why don't you escort our listeners out?
Till next time, take care now. Bye-bye then.
Laters on the Menche.